Everyone at school sees Kanagi Minato as a hopeless loser. Then one day, his entire life suddenly changes. He can barely believe the power now surging through him. His body becomes so strong that baldness somehow starts frightening him. During the running test, he shatters the existing school record. He also dominates the push-up exam with ridiculous ease. At the weightlifting station, no available load is heavy enough. Every watching student stares at him in absolute terror. This is the same boy they mercilessly bully for years. They remember him being nowhere near this frighteningly strong. Several silently regret ever daring to torment him. Yet Minato's life looks painfully different before this transformation. He alone fails the passer exam while everyone else succeeds. As his classmates celebrate, an inexplicable emptiness consumes him. This crushing result marks his third failed attempt. Afterward, he remains behind and cleans the classroom alone. The lonely task nearly makes him cry over his uselessness. A classmate eventually tells him everyone must gather by the entrance. Hinoki, an A-rank hunter, is the reason for the assembly. He once studies here, then becomes a celebrated hunter. A documentary crew films stories about his supposedly brilliant student years. Outside the camera's frame, the real story is far uglier. Hinoki is vicious, beating Minato every day without any reason. Merely remembering those attacks makes Minato's whole body tremble. For the cameras, Hinoki instead calls Minato his wonderful friend. He claims they studied together and that he always supported him. Hinoki even mentions money, pointing toward Minato's impoverished family. Every fabricated detail makes the famous hunter appear kinder on screen. Lacking courage to object, Minato quietly agrees with every lie. Reporters snap photographs while old memories scorch through his mind. Deep down, he truly cannot stand this man. Once filming ends, weakness leaves him hollow and utterly powerless. As a child, Minato adores books about the legendary founders. Their stories describe legendary heroes saving the entire world. Over a century earlier, a malevolent tower nearly destroys humanity. Monsters pour from it, threatening to erase humankind entirely. Extraordinary people rise against that disaster and save everyone. Each founder possesses abilities far beyond ordinary imagination. One defeats 10,000 soldiers using only a wooden stick. Honestly, even a pencil probably serves him just as well. Another is a mage casting spells without speaking one word. More than 100 years later, those saviors remain legends. A special mark on someone's body signals awakening potential. Those bearing it can become powerful, famous awakened fighters. Unfortunately, Minato has already failed the required test 3 times. His cherished dream now seems permanently dead. Before leaving, Hinoki returns and approaches his former classmate. He says the association grants Minato another test attempt. Minato must meet him later inside the founder's sanctuary. The unexpected offer leaves him wary and deeply confused. He knows perfectly well that Hinoki is a terrible person. Perhaps this gesture only serves the hunter's carefully polished image. Still, the motive means nothing if Minato receives another chance. He firmly decides to accept that precious opportunity. No lingering suspicion can make him reject this chance. He vows that he will definitely take the test. Again, his mind answers that he must accept. The decision repeats, hardening his resolve even further. He keeps telling himself to seize the opportunity. Every doubt meets the same unwavering answer inside him. He will accept, regardless of Hinoki's hidden intentions. The chance remains something he absolutely refuses to waste. His thoughts insist once more that he must take it. Nothing can stop him from claiming another attempt. He repeats that promise until hesitation loses its hold. Once again, he commits himself fully to accepting. His final answer remains unchanged. He takes the chance. Later, cameras roll inside the founder's mausoleum for one final scene. Their shot centers on Hinoki standing before the historic tomb. He delivers an impressively grand speech for the documentary. When the interview finishes, the police reporters thank him. They leave satisfied with every piece of footage. Hinoki maintains his courteous celebrity act until their departure. Smiling politely, he says he eagerly awaits the finished article. Once they disappear, he ventures farther into the mausoleum. Deeper inside, his men are already digging through sacred ground. Hinoki asks whether they have finally located the entrance. Excitedly, they point toward the hidden passage their digging reveals. The men ask if this passage is their intended target. A sudden voice then calls toward them from behind. Minato arrives expecting his promised examination retake. Instead, he catches the group violating this sacred place. To him, the mausoleum preserves those he admires most. Outraged, he tries stopping the shameless grave robbers. Hinoki answers with an A-rank awakened fighter's full strength. His vicious punch crashes directly into Minato's body. The brutal impact makes countless things inside him shatter. Hinoki's men shout that they have collected every valuable object. The tomb contains all those precious relics they are stealing. Near death, Minato still thinks only about this terrible injustice. They cannot be allowed to steal anything from here. Hinoki grabs him and reveals how thoroughly he knows him. He calls Minato the school's weakest student. Then he mocks his obsession with the ancient founders. Hinoki knows he practically lives in the library, devouring their books. His perfect scheme is dumping Minato into the river behind the sanctuary. The scheme then blames Minato for opening the founder's tomb. That earlier punch is actually a deliberate attempt to kill him. Hinoki hurls him into the water with no strength remaining. Helpless beneath the surface, Minato sinks deeper into the darkness. Beneath the surface, Minato remembers training relentlessly and studying with everything he had. Every sacrifice meant nothing, and his cherished dream now seems wasted. At the lake's bottom, mysterious lights suddenly ignite around his sinking body. Although the water remains freezing, their glow surrounds him with comforting warmth. Voices identify Minato as the chosen vessel of this generation. They explain that countless heroic spirits remain sealed within this place. The crest of nothingness has also appeared inside Minato's hand. By itself, the strange crest grants absolutely nothing to its bearer. Yet its owner can inherit the spirit of any founding hero. Minato must immediately choose which hero will receive his contract. Magic, endurance, swordsmanship, and spear arts are all available choices. Instead of selecting one, Minato boldly shouts, "I choose every one!" He wants every founder and every power they can possibly offer. The heroes protest that their contracts cannot possibly work that way. Regardless, an irresistible force drags every spirit toward Minato's crest. All 106 souls vanish inside the seal together. Hinoki and his two thieving companions still linger beside the lake. A violent explosion suddenly erupts from beneath the dark water. By sheer luck, the lean thief happens to carry an umbrella. All three stare as Minato floats impossibly before them. The supposed loser they murdered has somehow returned from the dead. He lands nearby wearing an expression they have never seen before. Even then, the thieves mock him for surviving like some indestructible pest. Minato notices a nearby stick and finds it strangely appealing. The two underlings laugh when he begins testing movements with it. They joke that a stick cannot transform him into a legendary assassin. Unbothered, he continues practicing each unfamiliar movement with perfect control. Hinoki finally orders his companions to return Minato permanently beneath the lake. Drawing his sword, the lean thief promises to sink him again. He launches a genuine attack, delivering several slashes within 1 second. Minato counters so quickly that the attacker sees absolutely nothing. Only when his body separates does the lean thief understand what happened. Hinoki and the chubby thief stare speechlessly at the gruesome result. Neither can accept that this is yesterday's powerless failure. Desperate, the chubby thief unleashes the strongest spell he possesses. Everyone knows Minato has no mana, so this attack should destroy him. Instead, he silently raises one finger toward the enormous target. A lightning bolt instantly crashes down upon the chubby thief. Hitting him is hardly difficult when the target presents such generous dimensions. Even so, the effortless spell leaves Hinoki visibly shaken. Minato has unquestionably performed magic without speaking any incantation. His earlier sword work resembles the techniques of the swordsmanship saint himself. Likewise, his lightning mirrors the feats of the legendary mage. Hinoki cannot understand that all 106 founders now dwell within Minato. Minato declares that his own name will enter the legendary mage's legacy. Once again, his magic perfectly reflects that ancient mage's impossible techniques. Hinoki still cannot comprehend how all 106 founders share that legacy. For a third time, the spell evokes the legendary mage's overwhelming mastery. Hinoki will also enter history, though for a far darker reason. He becomes the first evil erased by the great Kanagi Minato. As Kanagi approaches, Hinoki can only watch him with mounting horror. He finally accepts that the impossible transformation is undeniably real. The boy he discarded absorbed every founder through the crest of nothingness. Inside Kanagi's mind, the liberated founders celebrate with uncontrollable excitement. After centuries imprisoned, they eagerly savor their unexpected freedom. They immediately quarrel over who should control their shared body first. Amid the uproar, the legendary swordsman addresses Kanagi with casual familiarity. He is unsurprised that Kanagi still remembers his famous name. The swordsman asks what Kanagi intends to do next. He dismisses Hinoki as insignificant and indicates something far more dangerous behind him. Kanagi first faces Hinoki, who stammers while boasting about his A-rank status. Without wasting a single word, Kanagi answers with one crushing punch. The impact launches Hinoki helplessly through the air. Kanagi then studies a mysterious bag, radiating an unmistakably sinister aura. A massive burst of power suddenly erupts from inside the bag. The unexpected surge catches Kanagi genuinely off guard. Within his mind, the legendary swordsman watches calmly with a faint smile. Elsewhere in Seoul, a monstrous three-headed wolf rampages through the streets. A nearby man urgently calls for Akihina to handle the beast. Akihina immediately leaps above the monster with breathtaking grace. From overhead, he drives his sword downward using a waterfall impact attack. The single blow instantly defeats the rampaging A-rank monster. Spectators erupt into cheers for the victorious S-rank hunter. Akihina responds modestly, loudly thanking everyone for their enthusiastic support. He then asks the nearby hunters where Hinoki has gone. One man guesses Hinoki is probably occupied with another interview. He remarks that being called the Young Hope must feel wonderful. Akihina merely shrugs, saying Hinoki's popularity strengthens their guild's reputation. As they prepare to leave, terrifying pressure suddenly engulfs all Seoul. Panic spreads while civilians and lower-ranked hunters collapse beneath its weight. Akihina watches his own teammates struggle desperately to remain standing. Even A-rank and B-rank hunters cannot withstand the crushing force. He instantly recognizes that some unimaginable monster must have appeared. Yet Akihina has no idea what kind of creature could cause this. The overwhelming pressure is pouring directly from the founder's mausoleum. Back in the forest, Hinoki remains utterly frozen with terror. The terrified relic thief struggles upright as a colossal monster crawls from the bag. He stares in horror, stammering, "Is that a demon or something worse?" Kanagi explains that stealing the relic shattered an ancient seal. Behind that seal sleeps a boss creature from the tower's first age. Inside Kanagi's mind, Hinoki studies the creature with practiced expertise. He identifies it immediately as the embodiment of emptiness, surpassing S rank. Its poisonous aura alone could slaughter thousands of people. Hinoki adds that such monsters were disturbingly ordinary during his era. Overwhelmed by terror, the relic thief finally breaks and runs. He believes remaining another second guarantees his immediate death. Understanding predatory instincts, Kanagi warns that fleeing will hasten his end. The warning comes too late once the panicked thief starts moving. With horrifying speed, the monster launches an enormous tentacle toward him. He barely raises his sword when the tendril punches through his chest. His sword once slew a dragon, yet now proves utterly worthless. More tendrils spread across him and begin draining his life force. His agonized screams ring through the forest as his strength disappears. Kanagi watches silently, having already known this outcome was unavoidable. The dying former hero fades while Hinoki's spirit clutches Kanagi by the shoulder. He offers to demonstrate his one-handed sword style through complete possession. The other founders immediately seize Hinoki's shoulder and interrupt his proposal. They accuse him of selfishly monopolizing their powerful new vessel. Kanagi ends their argument by establishing his own uncompromising conditions. No founder will possess him alone because everyone must share his body. He vows to eventually surpass every founder through his own strength. Anyone wanting his body must first demonstrate what genuine power means. Hinoki grins, astonished by Kanagi's audacity, and prepares his blade. Seizing the opportunity, he initiates the union and beckons everyone forward. Hinoki's spirit raises its sword and Kanagi mirrors the exact motion. Together they aim directly at the towering creature's limbs. Guided by Hinoki's mastery, Kanagi severs one massive arm cleanly. The enraged beast retaliates with a furious, bone-crushing swing. Another founder lends Kanagi supernatural agility, allowing an impossible dodge. Their powers continue stacking as the spirits rotate through his body. One grants enough strength to catch the creature's whipping tentacles. Kanagi then hurls the enormous monster violently against the ground. The creature tears free, though the brutal impact leaves it staggering. Kanagi snatches a bow and drives several arrows through its hide. He unloads layered techniques, including whirlwinds, fiery breath, and freezing attacks. Attempting a surprise strike, the beast attacks upward from beneath him. Kanagi's eyes flash yellow as the Great Wizard assumes control. A violent lightning blast immediately scorches the ambushing creature. Kanagi follows by launching himself high above the monster. Hinoki takes over and grabs the relic thief's shattered sword. He executes his signature one-handed technique, the wave-cutting blade. Its sweeping edge cleaves the demon perfectly into two halves. Both pieces crash down, bringing the monster's rampage to an end. Exhausted but triumphant, Kanagi finally lets a winner's grin break through. From a nearby tree, one solitary raven observes the entire battle. Elsewhere in Seoul, a man atop a skyscraper answers an urgent call. He reacts with shock upon learning the monster was already defeated. The man asks whether any powerful hunters appeared at the scene. His caller says the Raven's recording captured an academy student winning. The man is Midori, recognized as the world's strongest awakened fighter. Intrigued by the report, he announces his desire to meet that student. The following morning, Midori sits casually atop piled monster corpses. From there, he places a call directly to the academy's director. Midori describes the S-rank monster and clarifies that he never defeated it. According to the Raven's footage, Kanagi was responsible for the victory. The claim sounds absurd because Kanagi failed 3 consecutive hunter exams. Midori then asks the director to grant him one special favor. At the academy, students eagerly discuss everything that happened yesterday. The terrifying aura kept most of them confined inside their classroom. Now everyone keeps exchanging frightened rumors about the mysterious monster. Kanagi limps across campus, supporting himself with a simple wooden stick. His entire body trembles violently with every painful step forward. Overhearing the conversations, he marvels that news spread throughout school already. A sneering student suddenly crashes into Kanagi and knocks him down. The sneering student scoffs that such a weakling could never slay S-rank. Kanagi alone understands exactly what truly happened during that battle. He defeated the demon only by surrendering his body to the founders. Now their overwhelming power inflicts an agonizing recoil throughout his body. As he struggles upward, a mocking voice echoes inside his mind. Hinoki reminds Kanagi about his fearless promise to surpass them all. His challenging yet encouraging tone pushes Kanagi to recover his composure. Remembering that vow, Kanagi ignores the agony and forces himself upright. He quietly renews his determination to reach that impossible goal. Hinoki chuckles within him, continuing to urge Kanagi onward. Hinoki demands that Kanagi finally prove the strength of his resolve. The spirit then surveys the nearby students with a disappointed sigh. This era's awakeners appear barely stronger than ordinary people. Compared with the warriors from his age, they seem pitifully weak. He fears the world's destruction if the tower returns now. Then an extraordinarily powerful aura interrupts his grim assessment. Kanagi notices Hinoki's abrupt tension, though the spirit dismisses his concern. A professor suddenly shouts for Kanagi to come over. Expecting an expulsion letter, he approaches with understandable caution. 3 failures have exhausted every chance he was ever given. Instead, the professor orders him onto the field for re-examination. The unexpected announcement leaves Kanagi frozen with absolute disbelief. Students crowd around the windows, buzzing excitedly about the decision. Nobody has ever received another chance at the hunter examination. On the field, Kanagi lowers himself into a sprinter's starting stance. His body remains injured, but his determination refuses to waver. The first event requires him to sprint 100 meters. The sneering student who knocked him down again calls him a failure. Once the test starts, stunned silence engulfs everyone watching. Kanagi finishes in 1.2 seconds, crushing the former 2.7-second record. Next comes the demanding 3,000-meter run around the field. He completes it within 1 minute and 17 seconds. That impossible time obliterates the previous record without any difficulty. Every remaining physical test produces the same unbelievable result. Push-ups and bench presses fall just as easily before him. Across every event, his performance more than doubles the standing records. The gathered students can only stare at him without speaking. Kanagi suspects the founders may be secretly supplying his impossible strength. Hinoki assures him that every bit of power belongs to him. Inside the headmaster's office, Midori carefully reviews Kanagi's personal file. The headmaster admits those new physical scores defy all reasonable explanation. Yet Kanagi's true problem has always involved his missing magic. Every assessment across 3 years registered absolutely no detectable mana. Those 0 readings made everyone regard him as a hopeless case. Midori's secretary merely smirks, sensing that matters may soon become interesting. Back outside, Kanagi faces the final assessment of his magical power. The professor instructs him to channel mana into a massive fan. He must keep it rotating continuously for 30 full seconds. The existing record stands at exactly 4,022 completed rotations. As Kanagi prepares, memories of repeated failures rush through him. Year after year, this exact test has ended in humiliation. Despite every previous effort, the fan never moved even slightly. His inability to perceive mana has always blocked his progress. This attempt feels different because he finally senses energy flowing inside. His mana begins at his right foot and spirals throughout his body. After completing its course, the current circles back to its origin. By controlling each breath, he regulates and accelerates that circulating energy. This control lets him discharge its gathered force through his right palm. The professor gives the signal, and Kanagi instantly releases his mana. The enormous fan immediately whirls at a truly astonishing speed. Its counting machine struggles to register the rapidly increasing rotation rate. The resulting wind makes continued spinning increasingly difficult for the fan. Its mechanism catches within a gap while the velocity keeps climbing. Observers cannot even follow the numbers flashing across the display. The speed surges far beyond anything the equipment can withstand. Without warning, the overwhelmed measuring machine violently explodes apart. Now detached, the fan streaks across the field like a spinning blade. Students scream as it hurtles straight toward the academy's main building. It crashes straight through the headmaster's office wall with a thunderous boom. The headmaster narrowly dodges the debris, then collapses from sheer shock. Midori's secretary stares helplessly, unable to process the outrageous spectacle. Unaffected by the chaos, Midori responds with an amused chuckle. He notices how uncannily Kanagi's techniques mirror his own late masters. Only one person before Kanagi ever produced an immeasurable result. Midori himself. Still reeling, the professor announces that the hunter exam is now passed. Excitement sweeps across the field as every student erupts into cheers. Kanagi has shattered every record and surpassed their wildest expectations. Staring at his hands, he trembles beneath the weight of disbelief. For years, he believed himself utterly incapable of wielding magic, yet that extraordinary power has remained hidden inside him all along. From the sidelines, Hinoki watches with quiet and knowing satisfaction. The spirit had already expected an outcome exactly like this. Kanagi understands that his entire life has now irreversibly changed. Surrendering his body to the founders awakened his long-dormant potential. Inwardly, Hinoki laughs that Kanagi now stands far beyond ordinary limits. He occupies the world's center now, impossibly distant from normal existence. The crest of nothingness marks a fate awaiting this moment for centuries. His reflection ends as an overwhelming presence descends upon them. A tremendous shockwave tears through the air beneath its crushing force. The impact leaves Hinoki speechless for one stunned instant. His thoughts scramble desperately to understand the explosive disturbance. Yet he recognizes that immense aura from earlier that same morning. Out of that crushing pressure, Midori seems to materialize before them. Kanagi stares in shock at the strongest hunter alive. Midori lands smoothly and addresses Kanagi without any wasted ceremony. He praises Kanagi's performance during the hunter examination with sincere recognition. Overwhelmed by his presence, Kanagi can barely force out an answer. Midori then presents one more challenge, an additional test. Kanagi must land a single hit on the world's strongest hunter. The condition leaves him frozen in speechless disbelief for several seconds. Midori is only 23, yet his legend already eclipses history. He became a fully recognized hunter at merely 9 years old. Now that impossible figure stands directly before the stunned Kanagi. No hunter in recorded history has ever matched his accomplishments. He once reduced thousands of demons to ash within mere moments. His overwhelming might makes even fellow hunters avoid confronting him. 10 years ago, he erased the pandemonium outbreak entirely by himself. 5 years ago, he single-handedly suppressed the Southern Island outbreak. He exists as a living singularity beyond all ordinary comparison. Hearing Midori explain the challenge only deepens Kanagi's disbelief. Inside him, Hinoki erupts with excitement and demands immediate control. Midori reduces the rules to terms nobody could misunderstand. Kanagi receives exactly 1 minute to strike him successfully. Success or failure carries no punishment or consequence afterward. To preserve fairness, Midori attacks only once every 10 seconds. Hesitation and doubt are unnecessary under these generous conditions. Kanagi may wield any skill or weapon he wishes. By contrast, Midori promises to use none of his own. To demonstrate sincerity, he summons an enormous collection of weapons. Kanagi may freely choose anything from the glittering arsenal. Countless legendary weapons appearing instantly make everything feel even more unreal. Confusion knots his thoughts as the challenge finally becomes tangible. He is truly facing famous Midori alone in direct combat. Still uncertain, Kanagi asks whether every weapon is genuinely permitted. Midori casually selects a katana, holding it with relaxed confidence. One effortless motion snaps the blade neatly into 2 pieces. In his hand, hardened steel breaks like a dry reed. Without boasting, he says his body exceeds every blade's sharpness. Kanagi barely processes the demonstration when Hinoki's patience finally breaks. Fury fills Hinoki's voice as he again demands control. Midori's crushing confidence has become intolerable to the enraged founder. He declares such arrogant words impossible to forgive. Kanagi feels Hinoki's energy swell toward its maximum intensity. His presence expands as though full power might erupt immediately. Kanagi finally grasps that Midori rivals the founders themselves. Against strength like that, victory offers no realistic possibility. Even so, hesitation is no longer an available luxury. Students crowd around the field, eager to witness the confrontation. Without warning, Midori starts counting down with a faint smile. That casual signal officially begins Kanagi's additional test. Kanagi seizes his sword and charges forward with fierce determination. Hinoki asks whether he truly plans to fight alone. Calling that choice unfair, he insists Kanagi should accept his help. Kanagi ignores the protest and presses onward with his assault. He already knows these efforts may accomplish absolutely nothing, yet legends must rise through their own strength, not borrowed power. Depending upon the founders would betray the legend he seeks. His sword lashes toward Midori, who evades with barely any movement. Kanagi attacks repeatedly while his opponent remains absorbed in his phone. Midori casually asks which social platform Kanagi normally uses. He remarks that recordings of this clash will certainly spread everywhere. Watching students cannot believe he dodges everything without taking things seriously. Amid Kanagi's barrage, a sharp-eyed student detects something strange in his movements. The sharp-eyed student studies every motion with growing fascination. Kanagi raises his sword, initially suggesting a descending vertical cut. He abruptly converts the feint into a sweeping horizontal strike. The altered attack simultaneously threatens Midori's feet and throat. Its execution feels flawless, astonishing Kanagi with his body's natural response. No fatigue touches him, despite the non-stop offensive. He wonders whether surrendering himself to the founders caused this change. His thoughts shatter when Midori rests one finger against his head. Preparing a flick, Midori notes that 10 seconds already elapsed. Kanagi narrowly escapes the finger at the final instant. The released force still obliterates the entire field behind him. Surveying the devastation, Kanagi understands that contact meant instant decapitation. Midori studies his own hand with visible confusion. He sensed no malice from Kanagi during that exchange. The result makes him question whether he misjudged his strength. Panic grips Kanagi because continuing this way will kill him. Desperation drives him to remember the feeling of his stronger self. As concentration sharpens, a tremendous aura bursts outward from him. The sudden surge catches even Midori unprepared for an instant. Kanagi attacks again, accelerating faster with every passing movement. Students erupt in awe as the combat surpasses their vision. They shout that even the camera cannot track those movements. Midori immediately notices the dramatic change within Kanagi's presence. He wonders whether some hidden condition activates this unusual power. Another possibility suggests Kanagi deliberately conceals its true nature. Midori suddenly arrives at yet another realization. Exactly 10 seconds pass, and Midori decides his next strike should be gentle. He crouches and positions one finger as though preparing another flick. Instead, he strikes Kanagi's chest and launches him violently into the wall. Kanagi coughs blood, yet the entire experience feels incredible to him. He marvels at battling the strongest awakened with his own hands. Yesterday's body would have died instantly from such a devastating blow. That thought makes him smile because it proves his strength is increasing. Still, his current abilities remain insufficient for passing Midori's demanding test. Determination takes over, and he chooses to advance through sheer brute force. Kanagi charges again, but Midori suddenly appears directly beside him. The unbelievable burst of speed stops Kanagi dead in his tracks. Midori apologizes and calmly explains that he has observed enough. Again, he declares the assessment finished and prepares a strike toward Kanagi's chest. Instead, the blow lands at his nape, slowly stealing his consciousness. As Kanagi collapses, Midori admits that he truly possesses remarkable genius. Even so, that talent still falls below the level of Midori's comrades. Kanagi ultimately fails to release the mysterious power Midori previously sensed. He calls his secretary and says they should return, sounding deeply disappointed. Just then, Kanagi grips his sword despite seemingly losing consciousness. An overwhelming aura immediately surges behind Midori and demands his attention. Looking back, he finds Kanagi's entire body radiating tremendous power. Hinoki speaks through him, noting that the stubborn brat is finally asleep. With Kanagi unconscious, Hinoki can finally assume control of the body. He steps forward and proposes extending their battle for a little longer. Separated from his body, Kanagi's spirit panics upon seeing Hinoki controlling it. Midori only smiles, recognizing the presence that caught his attention earlier. He questions whether another person emerged or some strange skill activated. One truth becomes perfectly clear: Kanagi has transformed into a monster. Under Hinoki's control, Kanagi suddenly attacks and warns Midori against daydreaming. Midori instantly notices that his opponent's entire movement pattern has changed. Both his speed and physical strength have risen to another level. A sword flashes toward Midori's face, forcing him to duck immediately. Another swing follows, and he leaps backward to gain some distance. Still shocked, Midori watches Kanagi rapidly prepare his sword again. The next slash misses as Midori bends beneath its deadly path. Instead, the blade's force tears into the building standing behind him. Midori finally panics after recognizing how dangerous this opponent has become. Kanagi's slashes seem unpredictable, although their underlying flow remains readable. The style resembles ancient swordsmanship, surging endlessly like raging water. Midori raises his palm and laughs at the astonishing display of technique. He remarks that defeating an S rank requires skill of exactly this caliber. Lifting his hand again, he intends to knock Kanagi unconscious once more. Only 40 seconds have passed since their match officially began. Kanagi suddenly surges forward and swings with almost unbelievable speed. He shouts that Midori will never manage to touch him. Midori quickly jumps backward, laughing while praising his opponent's impressive technique. The watching students can barely accept that Midori is fighting defensively. Kanagi calls him boring and demands that he stop restraining himself. He warns that disrespecting him will earn Midori a brutal beating. Without hesitation, Kanagi springs forward and launches another fierce attack. Midori merely laughs and gives an enthusiastic answer of agreement. A swift kick sends a loose stone hurtling toward the nearby weapons. The impact instantly launches those weapons high into the air. Midori jumps upward, surprises Kanagi, and snatches one hovering weapon. Kanagi excitedly exclaims that Midori is finally using his full strength. They collide in midair, matching foot against foot with tremendous force. Below them, the stunned students stare upward in speechless amazement. Both fighters seize every reachable weapon throughout their airborne exchange. Their overwhelming strength shatters each captured weapon into countless broken pieces. Inside Kanagi's body, the founders watch Hinoki unleash his full power. They are impressed that Midori can continue matching such terrifying ability. The Elder Spirit eagerly suggests that they should join the battle. Another founder immediately scolds him for making such a tactless suggestion. Watching silently, the Great Wizard suddenly notices Kanagi studying Hinoki's movements. Kanagi is carefully observing the technique and attempting to learn from it. Hinoki shifts his center of gravity while springing upward from below. Unfortunately, the sword within his hands shatters yet again during the attack. The weapon's miserable quality frustrates Hinoki and sends anger surging through him. Midori finds their escalating battle exhilarating and genuinely enjoyable instead. Soon he notices that no usable swords remain anywhere nearby. He wonders whether Kanagi plans to switch from blades to firearms. Wearing a taunting smirk, Midori announces that only 10 seconds remain. He mockingly asks what Hinoki intends to do with that time. Hinoki glances toward the building behind him and immediately leaps toward it. He rushes directly at the shover who previously knocked Kanagi aside. Upon reaching him, Hinoki swiftly snatches the man's sword away. Midori suddenly closes the distance and drives his fist toward Hinoki. The resulting impact triggers a thunderous explosion against the building. Fortunately, Hinoki evades the strike and reappears directly before Midori. Their mid-air struggle resumes as both exchange another rapid series of blows. During the clash, Midori begins shouting something about their ongoing fight. Midori shouts their allotted time is over, but proposes continuing for fun. Below them, the students notice the damaged building nearing total collapse. Their airborne battle climbs onto the rooftop, where Midori's secretary watches unconcerned. Midori plants one hand on a massive fan and wrenches it loose. Cracks race across its surface as it tears free from the building. He aims the enormous fixture at Hinoki and hurls it with tremendous force. Hinoki answers with his one-handed sword and dice-style sword art. A single slash chops the fan into countless tiny blocks. Its fragments scatter everywhere, leaving Midori openly delighted by his skill. He enthusiastically praises Hinoki, who immediately throws his sword at him. To Hinoki's shock, the blade shatters the instant it strikes Midori. Midori raises his hand toward him and calmly notes 60 seconds have passed. His palm then blasts Hinoki downward, sending him crashing below. Hinoki mutters a curse, unable to recover from the sudden blow. Kanagi abruptly lands on his back and propels him toward the other founders. As Midori's attack closes in, Kanagi redirects it with a gentle motion. The subtle deflection carries them safely beyond the incoming strike. That impossible maneuver leaves Midori and Hinoki equally stunned. Yet the force of the deflection breaks one of Kanagi's hands. Ignoring the injury, he drives his remaining fist straight toward Midori's face. To those inside, this clash between singularities seems almost endless. Their fierce struggle chases the smallest advantage, like evenly matched chess masters. Hinoki understands how grueling the battle feels, despite lasting only moments. Quiet pride rises as he sees Kanagi carve open a route to victory. Kanagi freezes when Midori stops the approaching fist just in time. Frustration hits him because the punch never lands cleanly. To everyone's shock, Midori grins and guides Kanagi's punch straight into her palm. That willing contact acknowledges all the effort behind the attempted strike. Without hesitation, he declares that Kanagi has passed the test. Both fighters collapse before either can do anything further. The watching students murmur in confusion, unable to understand the outcome. Still cradling Kanagi's unconscious body, Midori summons his secretary so they can leave. She arrives beside him and immediately asks about the final result. Midori confirms Kanagi passed and admits finding him genuinely interesting. He also confesses to accidentally breaking Kanagi's arm during the exchange. He asks his secretary to heal the injury, and she readily agrees. Overhearing them, the students can barely believe Kanagi actually succeeded. Understanding spreads through the crowd, erupting into thunderous cheers. Everyone celebrates Kanagi's success in landing a punch on Midori. Their noise rouses Kanagi while the secretary begins treating his damaged arm. She warns him to remain still throughout the healing process. He obeys, thanks her, and receives her congratulations for passing. Still doubtful, Kanagi suddenly sits upright and demands confirmation. Did he truly manage to land a hit on Midori? Midori suddenly appears beside him, openly amused by his frantic reaction. Kanagi's shouting prompts the secretary to request that Midori administer the injection. Midori gives Kanagi the shot, then gathers him securely into his arms. His behavior resembles an overeager attempt to recruit Kanagi. Taking control of the conversation, Midori insists that passing still means passing. He admits taking the battle seriously midway through his consecutive assault. Midori praises Kanagi for evading his strongest attack and moving impressively. He urges him to feel proud of the achievement. Regaining his composure, Kanagi accepts the compliment without protest. He immediately asks what next step follows the successful test. The question briefly puzzles the secretary, who turns toward Midori for guidance. Equally uncertain, he searches for an answer to Kanagi's eager question. That night, Kanagi helps his mother clean while she cooks at home. She casually asks how many guests they should expect. Unsure himself, he simply guesses that one person is coming. His mother reflects that the day has become a truly major occasion. Kanagi not only passed the hunter's exam, but also caught Midori's attention. She voices complete confidence in her son's capabilities. In her eyes, hard work always lets him accomplish anything. Kanagi listens quietly, appreciating every encouraging word. Then his mother's expression suddenly tightens with worry. Hosting someone so famous makes their modest home feel embarrassing. She jokes that visitors might mistake the place for a dog kennel. Exasperated, Kanagi quickly dismisses the concern as ridiculous. He insists Midori never judges people over things like that. After finishing his chores, Kanagi finally collapses across his bed. Even there, his thoughts remain trapped in the day's events. His gaze settles on the card Midori gave him, stirring uncertainty. He wonders why Midori never considered the situation more carefully. Memories return to the battlefield from earlier that same day. There, the secretary takes Midori down and forcefully twists his leg. Kanagi clearly recalls his pain scream when the secretary confronts him. In that memory, Midori starts reminding Kanagi of something from earlier. Midori claims Kanagi previously agreed to join his comrades after their victory. Confused by that reminder, Kanagi firmly denies ever making such a promise. Growing agitated, the secretary tightens her hold around Midori's injured leg. Midori warns Kanagi that far too many witnesses surround them. Instead, he asks Kanagi to visit his home later that night. There, he promises to explain their choices and identify their true enemies. Kanagi wonders who those mysterious enemies could possibly be. The founders already destroyed the tower, as far as he knows. Modern hunters supposedly eliminate monsters escaping through the dimensional crack. He considers some hidden motive, then gradually drifts into sleep. Hinoki's sudden shouting tears him violently back awake. Kanagi finds Hinoki and the founders gathered throughout his room. Bewildered, he asks why everyone came and what happened. Hinoki only says their discussion has already reached its conclusion. Still confused, Kanagi instinctively covers himself with both hands. Nervously, he asks whether they chose who gets his body. The doorbell rings before Hinoki can give him any answer. Apologizing, Kanagi assumes Midori arrived and postpones their conversation. He heads toward the entrance under the night's uneasy darkness. Opening it, he discovers his mother collapsed across the floor. Panic surges through him as he calls out and rushes closer. His steps abruptly stop when someone appears seated inside the kitchen. The stranger calmly eats his mother's cooking and praises its flavor. Around him, an enormous mess goes entirely ignored. Mockingly, the intruder tells Kanagi to discipline his own mother. He insists better food is necessary for impressing their customers. Kanagi demands his identity and asks what happened to her. Unshaken, the man instead yells at him to mind his tone. He introduces himself as Hatani, an S-rank hunter allied with Midori. Hatani orders Kanagi to pack his luggage for relocation to their base. Rage erupts, leaving Kanagi no room for another thought. He fires a bomb-like punch directly toward Hatani. Hatani dodges effortlessly, then suddenly materializes behind his furious attacker. From there, he asks whether Kanagi truly intends to challenge him. Kanagi answers with silence as his mother's words return. After his father's death, she proudly vowed to raise him alone. He remembers her worn shoes, which she stubbornly continued wearing. She always urged him to buy fresh sneakers instead. Earlier, she congratulated him and promised his favorite tonkatsu for dinner. Renewed determination hardens his glare directly upon Haitani. Again, Kanagi demands to know what he did to her. Hinoki studies the man and places Haitani, an S-rank hunter he once knew. Hinoki finds this imitation of Midori irritating and prepares to intervene. After witnessing Kanagi battle Midori, the founders understand how to treat him. Amused by his anger, Haitani calls Kanagi's furious expression rather cute. He lifts one hand, intending to slap him across the face. Kanagi remains motionless and shows no trace of fear. When the blow approaches, he casually catches Haitani's wrist. With astonishing ease, Kanagi whips his opponent around. The elder founder stares in disbelief at that familiar technique. He remembers it from their ancient battles against monsters. Kanagi suddenly sends Haitani flying straight through the window. His body smashes onward through the backyard wall, yet Haitani lands upright before actually striking the ground. Regaining his stance, he walks back and analyzes what occurred. He wonders whether Kanagi used a joint redirecting martial art. Memories return of Kanagi fighting Midori earlier that afternoon. Haitani noticed then his immense aura and refined swordsmanship. Something else also stood out, a strange, peculiar power. Now Haitani openly acknowledges the strength Kanagi possesses. He also praises Kanagi's resilience, calling him tougher than Hinoki. Kanagi's dwindling patience finally gives way to another demand. He orders Haitani to explain exactly what happened to his mother. Inside, she still writhes while poison spreads throughout her body. Haitani responds only with laughter at his desperate questioning. Mockingly, he notes that Kanagi understands nothing about the situation. A grin appears as Haitani finally offers the truth. His mother obstructed them, so Haitani poisoned her into unconsciousness. Smirking, he claims she may experience only minor side effects. Then Haitani casually admits he does not actually know. Kanagi stays calm, saying he cannot understand their reasoning. His composure leaves Haitani staring back at him in confusion. Kanagi asks why they harmed a potential comrade's family. Haitani merely laughs upon hearing Kanagi use the word comrade. Without warning, he appears behind Kanagi and prepares another strike. Kanagi narrowly evades the first attack, but the assault continues relentlessly. Throughout the barrage, Haitani declares Kanagi will never become their comrade. To them, he is merely a puppet obeying every command. Haitani says loved ones becoming hostages will force his submission. He sneers that Kanagi is painfully naive about everything. Kanagi cannot react before Haitani pins down his foot. Haitani slashes him, then mockingly asks whether his claim was correct. Kanagi retreats quickly as burning pain spreads across his cheek. Reaching upward, he discovers the poison already moving through him. Haitani grins and raises fingers tipped with sharp poison needles. He teasingly announces that the toxin already entered Kanagi's system. Finally, he begins revealing what this ability lets his body produce. His body can manufacture dozens of toxins, including his phantom bug poison. Haitani complains that this particular mission is painfully inconvenient. If unrestricted, he could flood a 5-kilometer radius with deadly gas. Unfortunately for him, releasing it across Seoul is not an option. He declares that the poison will kill Kanagi within 1 minute. Joining their organization earns Kanagi an antidote from Haitani. Refusing the offer means dying when that minute expires. Kanagi considers the terrifying potency of Haitani's toxin. For an ordinary person, exposure would guarantee an inescapable death. Studying his hand, he asks whether Anti, the medicine deity, is inside. The founders examine the toxin, then urge everyone to look at Anti. She appears equally confused and startled by Kanagi's sudden summons. He apologizes, then asks whether she can teach him neutralization later. Still flustered, Anti stammers out her agreement to help. Irritated, Haitani hurls another poisonous wave while demanding an explanation. He angrily asks what ridiculous nonsense Kanagi keeps muttering. Kanagi swiftly dodges and explains the Aikido maneuver used earlier. That technique belongs to the ancient god of hands within him. Inside Kanagi, the elderly master recoils in astonishment. Kanagi copied his movement perfectly after witnessing it only once. Next, he summons Hinoki, Shojima, and Makoto from within. They represent the Army Slasher, Blue Spear, and Heavenly Bow. Kanagi studied their records and committed every technique to memory. He reveals that Haitani's admired founders now reside inside him. That impossible declaration leaves Haitani utterly bewildered. Rather than fear Kanagi, Haitani erupts with furious rage. He charges forward, promising to demonstrate the meaning of genuine pain. Poison needles gleam from his fingers as he attacks. Kanagi springs away just quickly enough to avoid them. Haitani strikes a nearby tree, instantly withering and killing it. Without pausing, he immediately launches another vicious assault. He claims kneeling and begging might earn Kanagi a pain-reducing antidote. Once the agony consumes him, Kanagi will never return to normal. Haitani warns that madness will eventually swallow his mind. Kanagi remains silent, calmly watching the approaching hand. At the final instant, he slides smoothly aside. His palm meets Haitani's chest, unleashing the Saint's Fist technique. Haitani coughs blood, startling the technique's creator inside Kanagi. The crushing impact launches Haitani directly into a streetlight. Kanagi follows immediately with the Luminous Feet technique and kicks him. That second blow sends Haitani flying across a tremendous distance. Even the technique's creator is stunned by its overwhelming power. Still, Haitani quickly rises and recovers from both attacks. Within an instant, Kanagi reappears before him and strikes with both hands. He slips through Haitani's counterattack while snapping several poison needles. Next, the sharp beak corral technique drives into Haitani's stomach. Kanagi follows with the Dragon's Claw, carving him with one fist. Inside him, the claw technique's creator gapes in astonishment. Haitani manages to seize Kanagi during the relentless exchange. Kanagi answers with a flipper technique, tossing Haitani through the air. Suspended helplessly above the ground, Haitani wonders what is happening. The poison should already be clouding Kanagi's judgment. It should also have disrupted every part of his nervous system. Yet Kanagi remains powerful, mobile, and seemingly unharmed. He then unleashes the Truth Mage's silent spell against Haitani. A thunderous energy blast erupts, leaving every witness shocked. After Haitani falls, Hinoki turns and addresses the other founders. He explains that Kanagi began reproducing their physical and magical techniques. Whether this comes from the crest of nothingness does not concern Hinoki. He simply finds Kanagi's extraordinary potential deeply fascinating. The remaining founders quickly agree with Hinoki's assessment. Hinoki proposes that they personally take responsibility for training Kanagi. Under their guidance, he believes Kanagi could become the strongest awakener. Elsewhere in Seoul, hooded figures race and leap between rooftops. One hooded runner urgently orders the others to move faster. He reveals that Minato's guilds are also pursuing Kanagi. Their group must capture him before Minato's people arrive. Suddenly, Midori appears directly behind the frantic runner. With perfect calm, Midori asks whether their numbers are truly substantial. The hooded runner turns toward him with a shocked expression. Midori remarks that if there were 15, this man must be last. One finger nears the man's forehead before Midori flips and slams him down. Midori contacts his teammate through a Raven call link. She answers immediately and reports that she has arrived. The teammate confirms that no other awakeners remain nearby. Her next report catches Midori entirely by surprise. She explains that someone else had already reached the area. Midori stays quiet, waiting patiently for the remaining details. The earlier intruder was Haitani, an S-rank hunter infamous for poison. He came searching for Kanagi, but suffered a devastating defeat. Midori's gaze settles upon the rooftop mentioned in her report. Haitani lies sprawled there, motionless, with his mouth slightly open. The sight leaves Midori wondering what exactly happened here. A little later, their group reaches Kanagi's house. Midori claps enthusiastically, wearing a brilliant grin while praising Kanagi. His admiration is sincere as he admits never expecting Kanagi here. He repeats that he truly never imagined finding Kanagi here. Midori also never believed Kanagi could personally defeat Haitani. Without the slightest hesitation, Midori continues speaking. He asks whether either of them encountered the poison. Scratching his cheek sheepishly, Kanagi says both he and his mother are fine. Hinoki folds his arms, looking thoroughly unimpressed by that answer. He reminds Kanagi that Eva's help carried him through the night. The instant her name comes up, Eva groans from sheer exhaustion. Still, Hinoki openly praises how quickly she handled the crisis. Finishing the entire process within 5 seconds was hardly a minor feat. Eva merely shrugs and insists the task was not difficult. With the poison's creator nearby, several jabs provided the necessary blood samples. Those samples allowed her to identify and prepare the antidote. Still processing everything, Kanagi finally raises the question troubling him. He asks whether Haitani lied about being one of Midori's comrades. Midori immediately nods, confirming that Haitani's claim was entirely false. He explains that many people exploit his name for personal benefit. With that settled, Midori turns toward Akihina and asks whether she finished. She instantly appears beside him, answering with a simple nod. Akihina reports that every piece of damage has already been repaired. Kanagi's eyes widen, and a strangely despairing look crosses his face. He stares back at her, still unable to believe the claim. A glance confirms his window and backyard wall look flawless again. Smiling brightly, Midori suggests going inside to discuss Kanagi's future. Kanagi remains frozen as excitement and uneasiness surge through him together. The following day, a car waits outside while his mother sees him off. Standing by the gate, she asks whether he has forgotten anything. Kanagi assures her he is prepared and says she worries excessively. She can barely believe the child she raised is leaving with Midori. Midori has promised to care for Kanagi and develop him properly. Even so, she cannot silence her fears about letting him leave. He has also promised to shape Kanagi into an exceptional hunter. That possibility thrills Kanagi, though his mother remains visibly concerned. Concealing her anxiety, she hands him the lunch she prepared. She tells him to eat because he skipped breakfast that morning. Kanagi does not truly need food, yet accepts it without protesting. His mother then directly asks Midori whether her son will face danger. Without hesitation, Midori confirms that danger will indeed be involved. She explains that Kanagi has spent his entire life struggling, and trusting her son to Midori is therefore an enormous decision. Despite everything, her instincts as a mother leave her deeply uneasy. Midori confidently promises to train Kanagi until no weaknesses remain. Reassured by his conviction, she finally agrees to leave Kanagi with him. Inside the stationary car, Akihina watches Midori from the driver's seat. She questions whether making such a promise was truly responsible. After all, none of them knows what the future might bring. A brief flicker of worry passes through Midori as he considers this. Looking through the mirror, he sees Kanagi's mother still offering advice. She carefully explains the proper way to wash his clothes. Then she warns him against sleeping naked and catching a cold. Her endless concern sparks a determined light within Midori's eyes. Without speaking, he vows to give Kanagi everything he can. Beside the open door, Kanagi suppresses his feelings and says goodbye. As he prepares to enter, his mother calls out once more. She reminds him that he must return home for New Year's. After they depart, Midori gently asks whether Kanagi is doing alright. Kanagi admits that restraining his emotions required considerable effort. Leaning back, Midori tells him to follow whatever impulse feels natural. He can eat, rest, or do anything else he currently needs. Glancing around, Kanagi notices that his lunchbox is waiting open. For several tense moments, he remains uncertain about what to do. His mother's parting words still echo clearly inside his mind. Lifting the lid, he spots a tiny good luck message on the pork cutlet. That modest gesture strikes deeply, awakening the emotions he expected. He pauses and remembers every sacrifice and kindness she has given him. Quiet gratitude fills his chest as he finally begins eating. Each bite carries the painful sting of tears he refuses to shed. Nearby, Akihina and Midori exchange glances, but deliberately remain silent. They let Kanagi process everything privately as the journey continues. Upon arriving, Kanagi stares in shock at the imposing anti-prophecy headquarters. Midori welcomes him and explains how exclusive this building truly is. Only a carefully selected few awakeners ever receive permission to enter. The significance of that privilege settles heavily over Kanagi. For a moment, he feels overwhelmed by what he is joining. Inside one room, the window watcher observes their arrival with quiet intensity. Without turning around, he informs someone that the new members have arrived. The stoic girl questions whether this gathering is truly about the newcomer. A young speaker remarks that gaining a new comrade is remarkably rare. His statement draws the room's attention toward another man nearby. Arms folded at the room's edge, the cross-armed man remains deeply skeptical. He insists the newcomer must prove worthy of joining anti-prophecy first. Outside headquarters, Kanagi freezes briefly, struggling to absorb his unfamiliar surroundings. Questions race through his mind about what anti-prophecy actually represents. He also wonders whether it has any connection with the Ichika Guild. Noticing his discomfort, Hinoki admits the situation remains confusing and apologizes. She explains that classification rules prevented her from telling his mother everything. After all, their work is considered a top national secret. That revelation weighs on Kanagi far more heavily than he anticipated. Approaching the building, Midori suggests delivering Kanagi's luggage to the dormitory first. Hinoki offers assistance, but Kanagi insists he can carry everything himself. Just as he moves, an abrupt voice orders everyone to wait. Kanagi glances upward and spots the young man from earlier above them. The man boldly declares that he will personally explain the entire situation. In the same breath, he launches a devastating kick directly at Kanagi. Kanagi instinctively blocks, but the force fractures the ground beneath him. A violent tremor surges through his body from the brutal impact. Even so, he remains upright and braces firmly against the shock. The attacker appears impressed by his resilience and offers rare praise. Intrigued by that reaction, Kanagi pauses and asks for his identity. The man withdraws smoothly, touching down on the ground without effort. He proudly introduces himself as Hanada, Kanagi's comrade within the anti-prophecy unit. The introduction surprises Kanagi, though events leave no room for hesitation. Hanada was assigned to explain everything, so the truth is coming regardless. Midori remains utterly relaxed and simply asks Hinoki for some tea. She pours him a cup while Kanagi and Hinata continue sparring. Watching calmly, Midori asks why supposed comrades are fighting each other. Hinata answers that this confrontation serves two separate purposes. It introduces Kanagi to anti-prophecy while simultaneously measuring his combat abilities. That explanation lingers, leaving Kanagi uncertain what this test truly demands. Without warning, Hinata darts forward and unleashes another precise kick. Kanagi reacts immediately, stopping the strike with both arms and steady footing. Even during their clash, Hinata begins describing anti-prophecy's origins. Kanagi listens while defending himself, yet finds himself unable to respond. He doubts Hinata can truly explain everything while maintaining this relentless assault. During a brief pause, Hinata asks Kanagi's name before continuing. Without hesitation, he answers by introducing himself as Kanagi Minato. Still sipping tea, Midori reflects upon Kanagi's seemingly endless evaluations. Kanagi faced the Academy, Midori, and S-Rank, and now another challenge. He asks Hinoki whether Kanagi will always endure test after test. Calmly, she says such treatment cannot be helped in his circumstances. After all, Anti-Prophecy personally scouted Kanagi for this opportunity. Hinata continues throwing merciless kicks, while Kanagi blocks each using his hands. Despite the continuous punishment, his impressive endurance never begins to falter. During the assault, Hinata suddenly asks about a hunter's fundamental responsibility. Kanagi promptly answers that hunters eliminate monsters emerging through dimensional cracks. Hinata raises an approving thumb, confirming that Kanagi answered correctly. He compares hunters to pest controllers, offering a simple yet striking analogy. Hinata suddenly drops low, shifting tactics as he introduces another question. He asks what other threats exist beyond those coming through dimensional cracks. Caught unprepared, Kanagi hesitates and requests clarification about these other dangers. Hinata's expression darkens as he describes threats far worse than dimensional cracks. He mentions the 10,000 Demon Castle catastrophe from 10 years earlier. He also names Soul's Great Outbreak, which occurred 5 years ago. Kanagi recognizes both as enormous dimensional ruptures that left permanent scars. Before Kanagi can answer, Hinata suddenly charges directly toward him again. Kanagi raises his arms instinctively and successfully intercepts the incoming attack. Nevertheless, its overwhelming force sends him sliding several meters backward. Hinata praises his toughness and his accurate memory of the publicly known details. He adds that academy training will reveal far more about those catastrophes. Kanagi finally steadies himself, keeping his breathing controlled after the collision. Yet he receives almost no time to prepare for Hinata's next movement. Hinata suddenly blurs above him with speed that defies Kanagi's perception. Kanagi cannot even think before a crushing axe kick descends. He barely throws himself aside, narrowly escaping Hinata's descending leg. Hinata's foot smashes into the ground with terrifying destructive power. The impact tears through a nearby tree, splitting its trunk cleanly apart. That astonishing display of strength leaves Kanagi momentarily frozen in disbelief. Hinata straightens afterward, his voice becoming serious as the explanation continues. He describes the malevolent tower disaster that occurred 300 years ago. Such events were not ordinary catastrophes, but full-scale invasions from another dimension. Kanagi can only struggle beneath the weight of Hinata's explanation. He can scarcely believe this ancient horror is unfolding in the present. Hinata steps closer, his expression grave as he continues explaining. He admits he cannot understand why modern awakeners seem comparatively weaker. Far fewer people can rival the original founder's overwhelming strength today. That troubling decline has weighed heavily on Hinata for some time. Caught between concern and curiosity, Kanagi finally voices his lingering question. At last, he asks what they are supposed to do. Hinata firmly answers that the anti-prophecy unit exists for this reason. People foreseeing genuine catastrophes never reveal their warnings to the public. Instead, they inform only elites capable of confronting those looming dangers. According to Hinata, those elites comprise the anti-prophecy unit's entire membership. Midori and Minato exchange proud smiles after hearing that declaration. Kanagi understands their mission is preventing every foretold disaster from happening. Hinata then announces that Kanagi officially joins their ranks today. He welcomes Kanagi as the first person to repeatedly block his kicks. Hinata extends one hand, silently offering acceptance into their organization. Kanagi takes it, sealing his entry with a firm handshake. Midori and Minato applaud while Hinata summons the remaining awakeners. Without making any sound, those awakeners appear above the house. Hinata looks upward and asks what they intend to do. They merely stare down at him, then vanish without answering. Their abrupt disappearance leaves Kanagi visibly startled and deeply confused. Midori jokes that their theatrical exit makes them resemble fleeing villains. Hinata shakes his head, interpreting their silence very differently. He believes they want to observe how everything develops for themselves. Hinata tells Midori to entrust the remaining matter entirely to him. Midori accepts his assurance and heads away without further argument. Afterward, Hinata helps Kanagi gather and carry all his belongings. He also offers to guide Kanagi toward his assigned dorm room. Grateful for the assistance, Kanagi sincerely thanks him for everything. That night, Kanagi settles in while contemplating the organization's true meaning. Its entire purpose centers on managing prophecies threatening their present world. He wonders whether the founders confronted similar danger during the Tower era. Another possibility troubles him. Perhaps his current battle was already predicted. Those thoughts steadily tighten his chest and fill him with anxiety. A sudden voice interrupts, telling him that he simply needs training. Startled, Kanagi turns and finds Hinoki standing beside the other founders. He quickly apologizes for failing to speak with them any sooner. Hinoki reassures him and explains that they have reached a decision. As founders, they will train him into the strongest awakener, matching Midori. Their guidance could even make him the strongest awakener in history. More importantly, Kanagi would become a disciple belonging to them all. Stunned by the offer, he asks whether they truly want him. Hinoki confirms it, then playfully mentions an approaching contest between them. Worried, Kanagi immediately begs the founders not to fight over him. Hinoki admits their discussion originally began exactly like that, yet studying Kanagi more carefully caused every founder to reconsider. Using his body for themselves now seems less appealing than teaching him. Hinoki finds the prospect of personally developing Kanagi far more fascinating. He recalls Kanagi's victory against the dangerous venom wielder. During that fight, Kanagi successfully copied every technique his opponent demonstrated. He cannot reproduce them perfectly, yet grasps their foundations remarkably quickly. Hinoki asks whether Kanagi understands how extraordinary that achievement truly is. His crest of nothingness probably enables that unusual copying ability. Still, his astonishing learning speed is what truly separates him. Hinoki declares that gift superior to every founder's natural talent. As those words sink in, tears begin gathering within Kanagi's eyes. He remembers the disappointed expressions worn by his former trainers. Those trainers always insisted that he possessed no noticeable talent. Until this moment, nobody had ever expected anything meaningful from him. Their praise feels dreamlike after years of humiliation and relentless bullying. He failed the hunter qualification examination 3 separate times. That repeated failure made others treat him like worthless garbage. Kanagi remembers classmates laughing and mockingly ordering him to surrender. His name often disappeared within crowds because nobody bothered remembering it. No one trusted his future, making constant neglect painfully familiar. Now Midori and Hinoki, 2 renowned figures, openly acknowledge his potential. Kanagi can hardly accept that people like them finally recognize him. Their approval makes him question whether he deserves such unexpected happiness. He has admired them from afar for an incredibly long time. Never once did he imagine they might place genuine trust in him. Hinoki notices his reaction and approaches with a comforting smile. He rests one reassuring hand upon Kanagi's trembling shoulder. Hinoki gently warns him against letting those emotions overwhelm his judgment. Then comes the deeper revelation. The founders' real souls reside inside him. Their presence becomes especially accessible whenever Kanagi falls asleep. Through them, he can enter a realm unrestricted by time or dimensions. The founders immediately establish an unforgiving schedule for his coming training. Every afternoon, he will practice alongside the anti-prophecy unit. Each night, his instruction will continue inside his own dreams. Peaceful sleep is now impossible, but Kanagi has prepared himself mentally. He immediately accepts their guidance, determined to obey every instruction. Night finally passes, and morning arrives at the dormitory. Hanada is washing his face when Kanagi enters the bathroom. They exchange morning greetings, though Kanagi still looks terribly drained. His exhaustion is obvious after enduring the merciless new training routine. Kanagi admits he has not adjusted to the punishing schedule. Hanada understands perfectly, since Kanagi remains bewildered by everything around him. He remembers struggling just as badly upon first entering the dormitory. Then an unexpectedly powerful aura, radiating from Kanagi, catches his attention. Driven by curiosity, Hanada suddenly launches a lightning-fast kick at him. Kanagi merely ducks, spits out his mouthful of water, and walks away. He never even bothers glancing back at the stunned Hanada. Kanagi dismisses the childish stunt, especially this early in the morning. He announces that he lacks patience and heads toward the cafeteria first. Left behind, Hanada can hardly believe how casually Kanagi avoided him. His kick was faster than yesterday, yet Kanagi dodged it effortlessly. Inside the cafeteria, Hanada notices an open spot beside a woman eating fruit. He approaches Midori and asks whether they may share her table. She grants permission with a curt response and barely any interest. Hanada sits across from her, then gestures Kanagi toward the neighboring seat. Kanagi recognizes her as one of Hanada's comrades from yesterday. Despite that connection, Midori remains distant and addresses him with stiff formality. Her cold manner makes it obvious she does not want him nearby. Kanagi still greets her politely and offers his name anyway. Midori immediately says she has no interest in learning or remembering it. Raising her fork toward him, she sets a blunt condition. She will acknowledge his name only after deciding he deserves that recognition. Until then, Kanagi must focus entirely on his training. He must also accompany her on a mission to eliminate a prophecy. That prophecy traces back to a strange discovery made during 1945. An explorer found the first prophecy book beneath the southern polar ice. The mysterious volume had been buried at a depth of 3,000 meters. People came to call the ominous artifact the Book of Doom. Its crude writing resembled careless scribbles produced by a small child. Yet those clumsy markings described a horrifying future for the world. The book warned that 80 years later, a devastating assault would arrive. Countless apocalyptic disasters would accompany that attack and ravage civilization. Its predictions carried such weight that everyone treated them with absolute seriousness. During their drive, Midori asks why the world trusts those grim forecasts. Kanagi pauses to consider the question, then looks uncertainly toward her. He still does not even know what Midori is called. As he considers asking, she says introductions are unnecessary right now. Midori only wants to hear his answer to her question. Kanagi assumes the prophecies must have proven exceptionally accurate. She instantly scoffs, openly making him question whether his answer sounds foolish. Midori explains that one genuine prediction would already mean the world's destruction. That startling explanation leaves Kanagi shocked and unable to respond. As the discussion continues, he turns toward Hanada with another question. Kanagi asks how many prophecies the book actually contains. Hanada estimates that roughly 200 predictions were recorded inside it. The staggering number leaves Kanagi utterly speechless in his seat. He wonders whether the world has already passed the point of salvation. Midori reassures him that they have prevented nearly 180 prophecies. Their incredible success astonishes Kanagi even more than the original number. Still overwhelmed, he again asks why everyone trusted the book initially. Midori explains that a particular explorer originally uncovered the Book of Doom. The instant the explorer opened it, its first page personally greeted him. That greeting addressed the explorer by his full name without explanation. Beneath it appeared March 17th, 1945, precisely 11:35 in the morning. The page even correctly described the weather as sunny that day. Every detail matched the exact instant when the book was discovered. Such eerie precision left the world with no reasonable grounds for doubt. Several hours later, their group reaches the designated district within Seoul. An intermediate-level dimensional crack has opened within the restricted area. As they approach, station guards firmly block their way forward. The guards warn them that nobody may enter the sealed zone. Ignoring those orders, the group flashes past them with astonishing speed. Their sudden movement leaves the guards frozen in momentary confusion. Kanagi hesitates, wondering whether continuing without permission is truly acceptable. Hanada quickly assures him that entering the area causes no problem. Midori begins explaining the enormous crises handled by their specialized unit. The Third World War qualifies as one such world-threatening emergency. Other examples include the moon's dark side and an invasive pandemic. Even the appearance of floating trees belongs among those major emergencies. The pandemonium outbreak was especially dangerous, though Midori successfully stopped it. Despite its fame, the Book of Doom is only one magical volume. Many other magic books remain scattered across different parts of the world. The Anti-Prophecy Unit gathers information about every prediction they can uncover. Its members analyze those warnings and intervene before the foretold events occur. Midori then outlines the threat rankings assigned to incoming disasters. Rank 3 means at least one region faces total destruction. A Rank 2 prediction represents an emergency threatening an entire nation. Rank 1 affects the planet's overall environment rather than isolated territories. Special rank is reserved for events capable of destroying the world itself. Kanagi listens closely, growing increasingly alarmed by the responsibility involved. He urgently asks whether handling these missions now rests entirely upon them. Midori remains unfazed and confirms that those responsibilities belong to unit members. Soon, Akihina and his team notice them crossing the marked caution line. They immediately approach the intruders and confront them inside the restricted zone. Mistaking the newcomers for civilians, Akihina orders everyone to turn back. He stresses that the area ahead is far too dangerous. Midori brushes aside his warning and begins identifying today's prophecy. Midori identifies the prophecy as a Rank 3 event. Although the crack resembles an intermediate B-rank fissure, its danger is far greater. This Rank 3 disaster carries the codename Yellow Journal. She predicts rapid expansion, and the crack immediately begins widening violently. Akihina turns in horror as the fissure tears fully open. A flood of increasingly grotesque creatures surges through the opening. He barks at his squad to brace for combat. The monsters crush his forces within moments, slaughtering them almost unopposed. Panic grips him as even B-rank and C-rank hunters lose ground. His focus snaps toward the crushing pressure of a boss-level monster. Seeing the newcomers advance, Akihina urgently orders them to stay back. His warning stops when the mage plants one hand against the ground. She invokes Trismegistus, sending spears erupting upward beneath the creatures. Impaled bodies crumple motionless while blood spreads beneath them. Hanada charges into battle and begins his own assault. He flashes across the field with astonishing speed and effortless control. Every calculated movement sends another enemy crashing down. Akihina watches their display, robbed of every possible word. He has always considered himself formidable, even among S-rank hunters, yet these strangers dwarf him and their origins remain utterly mysterious. The mage turns toward him and firmly commands him to retreat. To her unit, Akihina counts as nothing more than a civilian. His gaze drops to the emblem stamped across her hand. Recognition flashes across his face as its meaning becomes clear. They arrive deliberately, serving as operatives for the government. A colossal hand bursts from the crack and wrenches it wider. Through the enlarged rift steps a towering beast named Gilia Olnir. Far beyond S-rank, its monstrous presence smothers everyone nearby. The mage lunges ahead without hesitation, already preparing her strike. Akihina shouts against such recklessness, but she ignores him. She and Hinata attack together, showing no fear whatsoever. Hinata hammers the beastman with a rapid chain of kicks. Shock hits him when none of those blows inflict damage. Its anti-physical armor renders every direct strike useless. He retreats just as the creature springs toward the mage. Unflinching, she gathers a mass of energy for her counterattack. Kanagi suddenly slips between them before the mage can react. With only one hand, he stops the beastman's attack cold. The collision detonates the creature in a violent eruption of energy. Everyone stands stunned for a brief moment amid the blast. When the dust clears, Hinata identifies a penetration shock. More astonishingly, Kanagi destroyed an S+ monster with one blow. Hinata understands that Kanagi's strength has surged dramatically overnight. The mage protests that such overwhelming force was hardly necessary. Kanagi knows internal strikes work best against tremendous physical resistance. Makoto, the Fist Saint, taught him the power of the beast. Only last night, he learned that beast power underlies penetration attacks. Kanagi then asks the rescued mage to tell him her name. He argues that saving her at least earns him that answer. She excitedly introduces herself as Akane, answering without any hesitation. There is no time for either of them to linger. Hinata whirls back, powering up against another wave from the crack. Akane remains calm while the fresh monsters pour outward. She drenches the attackers in a flood of liquid mercury. Her Mercurius reject skill ignites it into a devastating explosion. Both fighters surge onward, recognizing that Kanagi's earlier advice was correct. Shattering their enemies internally proves much more effective. Determined to continue, Akane signals Hinata toward the opening. Neither hesitates as they race directly for the dimensional crack. Behind them, Akihina can only stare after them in disbelief. He knows the world across that threshold follows entirely different rules. That unknown realm teems with dangers beyond anyone's imagination. Entering such a place seems like absolute madness, yet they are already airborne, diving through without another thought. Akihina remains behind among the fallen bodies of A-rank monsters. A grim conclusion finally strikes him amid the carnage. Those two fighters are anything but ordinary. They must belong to the secret organization whispered about in rumors. Inside the dimension, an overwhelming swarm immediately waits for them. Akane rapidly studies the horde and surrounding conditions. She confirms these monsters match those encountered outside, then raises her hand. Mercury spears answer with perfect precision, instantly skewering the entire swarm. Still sprinting forward, Kanagi keeps his eyes fixed on her. That display confirms her immense power and the brilliance behind her technique. He finally understands why Akane leads the anti-prophecy unit's area fighters. After the remaining enemies fall, Akane confronts an enormous bear monster. She prepares to strike, but Hinata launches himself forward first. The bear swipes its claws, yet he evades and reaches the roof. From there, Hinata bombards the towering beast with kicks from every direction. Kanagi watches in awe, giggling at how effortlessly Hinata moves. Then he suddenly charges, stunning Hinata with an identical kicking barrage. Kanagi even asks whether his imitation resembles Hinata's original technique. Though caught off guard, Hinata cannot suppress an impressed smile. Once the bear falls, the three continue deeper into the dimension. Akane notices that enemy numbers steadily decrease along their route. Eventually, they enter a vast clearing shaped like an enormous arena. An ominous aura surrounds them, warning that something powerful approaches. Without warning, a gigantic, furious Minotaur warrior crashes down nearby. The blind boss-class creature possesses a terrifying triple S power rating. Its immense body shocks Hinata and Kanagi, leaving them momentarily speechless. Akane remains casual, quietly questioning whether this monster is truly the boss. A cluster of spears suddenly shoots outward from the nearby portal. She orders everyone to unleash their strongest attacks against the Minotaur. Akane promises to handle whatever follows their opening assault. Hinata immediately gathers his energy while Kanagi watches from behind. Although impressed by both fighters, he suspects their strength remains insufficient. Hearing that doubt, Hinata cannot believe Kanagi questions their strongest techniques. Their magical barrage pounds the creature, but it simply swings its massive weapon. The impact gouges a crater and blasts shockwaves throughout the arena. When the dust clears, the group stares ahead in disbelief. Despite taking their combined assault, the Minotaur remains entirely unharmed. Still shaken, everyone prepares themselves for another desperate exchange. As Kanagi readies himself, someone suddenly praises Akane's remarkable talent. He recognizes the speaker as the founder's spirit residing within him. The alchemist admires Akane's purity, agility, and extraordinary physical strength, yet the spirit fears she may squander everything by dying so young. According to him, Akane fought well, but this enemy surpasses her entirely. She misjudged its physical resistance, which stands at precisely 100%. Growing anxious, Kanagi asks what he should do against such power. Rather than answer immediately, the founder's spirit merely laughs. Hinata and Akane continue struggling badly against the relentless Minotaur. Both conclude that bringing a skilled magic specialist would have helped. Akane looks toward Kanagi and notices unfamiliar energy radiating from him. Kanagi has surrendered bodily control to the founder's spirit inside him. Using Kanagi's body, the spirit casts Mercurius directly across the monster's legs. The spell freezes its lower body in place, astonishing Akane. Kanagi seemingly uses her specialty, yet applies it with far greater control. His method does not merely damage the Minotaur, it immobilizes the creature. Still commanding Kanagi's body, the spirit sternly calls Akane foolish. He criticizes her rigid approach and her inability to adapt her alchemy. A true alchemist must control substances across 3 separate physical forms. While lecturing her, he floods the Minotaur's entire body with mercury. Liquid metal soon begins leaking grotesquely from the creature's mouth. The spirit follows by casting a spell that boils everything inside. Mercury rapidly heats within the Minotaur, cooking its body from the inside. Toxic vapor spreads across the arena, leaving everyone struggling for air. Akane observes the process with amazement and finally understands his strategy. Instead of overpowering the monster, he exploits extreme temperature to destroy it. The Minotaur writhes helplessly as unbearable heat ravages its internal organs. During the spell, the spirit casually requests Akane as his disciple. Kanagi dismisses the suggestion, assuming the strange proposal is merely a joke. Eventually, the boiling mercury overwhelms the Minotaur and ends its resistance. Its enormous body collapses onto the ground as a lifeless heap. With the boss defeated, their level 3 prophecy mission ends in victory. Akane remains frozen, unable to comprehend the technique she witnessed. Kanagi used an ability reserved for an awakener dwelling within a crest. That means he belongs to the same unusual class as Hinoki, yet he also demonstrated alchemy matching Akane's own advanced level. Still bewildered, she demands that Kanagi reveal who he truly is. Wearing a confident smile, he extends his hand and introduces himself. Annoyed yet fascinated, Akane reluctantly accepts his offered handshake. She firmly tells Kanagi that she will never forget him. Hinata beams with delight because Kanagi has finally earned Akane's recognition. Outside the dimensional crack, Shijima and his men continue waiting anxiously. To their alarm, the unstable entrance suddenly begins closing by itself. Just before it seals, the 3 fighters leap safely through. Kanagi asks whether their mission can now be considered officially finished. The others explain that only their formal report remains to be completed. At headquarters, Shijima approaches during their discussion and thanks them for saving his team. He promises not to investigate their identities or what occurred inside. Akane thanks him for understanding and recommends describing the emblem in his report. That detail should give the authorities a convincing explanation for everything. While the trio departs, Shijima offers assistance if trouble ever finds them. Akane turns around, saying they will probably never cross paths again. She urges him to return to the ordinary life he belongs in. Her words make Shijima understand that they are ultimately ordinary civilians. They inhabit a world forever beyond anything he can ever reach. On May 11, a red flash races through a provincial village. A watching guard spots it but cannot identify the baffling phenomenon. Without warning, a deafening roar tears upward through the entire village. Inside Anti-Prophecy headquarters, the trio rises as Akane mentions their report. She reminds everyone that headquarters still requires their written mission account. Then Hinata receives a phone message summoning all 3 to the laboratory. The timing feels highly unusual, especially immediately after finishing another operation. Curiosity draws them toward the Anti-Prophecy laboratory to learn what awaits. 2 men await them, one on stage and another seated among the stands. The seated man sternly declares Aken took far too long handling a rank 3 disaster. Kanagi instantly recognizes Suo as the red-haired man encountered earlier. Akane answers condescendingly, irritated that he is impersonating their leader again. Hinata quickly intervenes, asking what the director summoned them to discuss. The man standing on stage turns out to be the director himself. After tempers settle, he plays footage delivered by the analysis team. It displays a glowing chunk of red-hot charcoal under close examination. The director identifies this strange object as a prophecy grimoire. He says researchers recovered it from a volcanic region and began studying it. Kanagi questions whether anyone could read a grimoire damaged this severely. The director first clarifies that it is no ordinary grimoire, but prophetic. Then he unexpectedly insists the object is not a prophecy grimoire, after all. Adjusting his glasses, he says their extended work finally produced limited information. AI and X-ray technology extracted fragments, though the full wording remains uncertain. One deciphered prophecy, nevertheless, makes an unmistakable reference to Korea. The room falls silent while Akane reels from this unprecedented prediction. Nobody there has encountered this prophecy anywhere before. According to the director, anti-prophecy research gathers advanced intelligence worldwide. That vast network makes any completely unknown prediction extraordinarily rare. Yet this case clearly falls outside their established knowledge. Suo immediately understands that all 4 must investigate the mystery themselves. The director commends his insight and explains the normal team remains unavailable. Kanagi now understands why Midori was absent when they returned. The director orders their immediate departure and promises further instructions by email. Kanagi cannot believe another assignment arrived so quickly after the last. Suo simply assures him that this punishing pace eventually becomes normal. Unease grips Kanagi as he tightly clenches both fists. The possibility sinks in that the world's survival may depend on them. Suo slams his hand against the table and rises decisively. In a commanding voice, he declares his 3 subordinates will handle this mission. Akan bristles because he has once again appointed himself their boss. As they depart, the director gives everyone one final warning. He urges extreme caution because nobody yet knows how severe it may become. Even if events begin unfolding, they must await the main force before drastic action. During the drive, Kanagi broods over their relentless missions and repeatedly warns everyone. From the front seat, Suo advises the others to rest while possible. He points out that Kanagi only just completed his very first operation. Pride makes Akane refuse, insisting Suo has no authority to command her. To her surprise, Hinata and Kanagi eagerly agree and fall asleep almost instantly. Akane stubbornly remains awake, struggling against increasingly heavy eyelids. As night deepens, exhaustion finally overwhelms her resistance, and she sleeps. Much later, the vehicle stops, stirring Akane from her sleep. She discovers every other seat empty and immediately becomes alarmed. Rushing outside, she finds the others gathered along a high cliff. Together, they stare toward an eerie glow spreading across the land below. The sight leaves Akane staring in stunned disbelief. An enormous magic circle covers the ground, dwarfing everything they had imagined. Hinata immediately grasps that the crisis is vastly worse than expected. The prophecy stands frighteningly close to completion. Then skeletal figures begin pushing upward from beneath the ground. The emerging skeletons remain imprisoned inside enormous crystals. Their unnatural glow washes the entire area in threatening light. A chill grips everyone as they fear they arrived too late. These remains belong to all 23 villagers named in the report. Suo remembers another disturbing case from 30 years earlier. Back then, a mansion vanished and nearly opened a dimensional rift. While he explains, the central pillar spits violent surges of energy. Seeing the eruption, Suo urges everyone to act immediately. Hinata draws his sword and asks what their next move is. Suo answers that they still have one chance to stop this. Akan quickly reminds him about the director's explicit orders. Their unit was ordered to remain there until further instructions arrived. A colossal aura suddenly rises behind them, ending the argument. They turn and find Kanagi shrouded in energy, ready for battle. Everyone instantly senses that he has grown far stronger than before. Suo remains unshaken, greeting the frightening display with a smirk. He leaps ahead and commands the entire group to follow. Everyone charges after him, though Akan condemns his recklessness. Racing toward the circle, Hinoki and the spellcaster abruptly face Suo. Suo meets Hinoki's gaze with something strange flickering in his eyes. Then a familiar odor catches his attention in the air. They have encountered this deeply disturbing scent many times before. The ground convulses and a gigantic hand erupts through the earth. Hinoki's eyes widen as recognition replaces his initial shock. That odor belongs to the forbidden technique foretold by scorching heat. Hinoki recounts the technique's origin in an ancient period. An awakener called Shijima once led the Dark Mages. He committed genocide, leaving countless victims in his wake. Exorcists eventually killed him, but an entire village perished too. Shijima gathered those villagers' blood and painted a magic circle. The ritual guaranteed his return exactly 1,000 years later. He planned to consume everyone and reign over the world as a demon king. Prior to dying, he preserved this terrible forbidden resurrection technique. It demanded living sacrifices to restore him when the promised time arrived. In the present, Shijima returns as a boss of unknown rank. His purpose remains unchanged: fulfill the scorching heat prophecy. He studies his hands, scowling at their disappointing weakness. His restored power falls far below everything he had anticipated. Perhaps, he wonders, the ritual simply lacked enough sacrifices. Looking around, Shijima finds amusement in the landscape's thousand-year sameness. Then the approaching anti-prophecy unit brings a crazed grin. To him, these newcomers are merely additional sacrifices to claim. Drawing upon dark arts, he casts a yin plate beneath them. A massive explosion detonates directly under the charging unit. His dark art erupts successfully, but the unit survives its force. Kanagi panics when the blast engulfs Hinata and Akane. Once the dust clears, both emerge without serious injuries. His relief vanishes when another dark circle forms beneath their landing. This dark art opens a realm belonging to death. Hundreds of spirits pour upward, stretching spectral hands toward them. Hinata and Akane struggle as those hands attempt to seize them. They quickly grasp that Shijima's mastery exceeds every expectation. Watching his spell unfold, Shijima senses movement behind him. Kanagi has slipped behind him and launches a surprise strike. Shijima effortlessly bends away, then sidesteps the ambush without strain. The surprise assault cannot touch him despite Kanagi's sudden approach. Smirking, he calls Kanagi an amateur and counters immediately. A second yin plate appears directly underneath Kanagi's feet. The blast erupts, yet Kanagi somehow stands entirely unharmed. He retaliates by unleashing his powerful thunderbolt technique. Shijima raises dark magic and blocks the incoming attack. Despite stopping it, he respects Kanagi's choice of technique. From the smoke, Suo approaches unnoticed behind Shijima. He casts the Chrysanthemum spell, launching numerous sharpened knives. Surprised, Shijima escapes them easily by springing into the air. While he remains airborne, Suo immediately prepares another spell. He expected the weaker technique would never defeat Shijima. Suo slams down his weapon and activates the Autumn technique. A deadly shower of knives begins falling from overhead. Shijima only smiles, dismissing them as harmless falling lights. He then morphs one hand and drives it toward Suo. Suo blocks the transformed strike but suffers tremendous recoil. That defense convinces Shijima that Suo is likely their strongest. Watching nearby, Kanagi feels as though Shijima's power has no limit. This opponent eclipses every enemy their group has previously fought. Shijima even appears mightier than the founders themselves. His thoughts break when friends call urgently from behind. Kanagi turns and sees black art striking Hinata and Akane. Shock grips him while dark techniques batter both companions. They escape the assault and immediately charge toward Shijima together. He remains locked in fierce combat with Suo as they approach. To stop them, Shijima conjures 3 skeleton demons against charging Hinata and Akane. Hinata finds one of the creatures materializing directly before him. He kicks it hard, yet the blow accomplishes absolutely nothing. Their bodies prove as durable as the minotaurs fought earlier. As Shijima and Suo exchange strikes, another skeleton blocks Kanagi's path. Shijima taunts Suo, claiming his companions cannot assist him now. His mockery ends when Suo slices deeply across his shoulder. "I need no assistance," Suo declares while pointing directly at Shijima. He warns Shijima away, insisting only his personal strength matters. Shijima wipes away the blood and begins shouting like a lunatic. Screaming wildly, he claims he needs nobody and will consume everyone. He lunges at Suo, whose desperate guard stops the attack inches away. Under that relentless assault, Suo hears Kanagi calling from behind him. Kanagi races directly towards Shijima, ready to join the fight. Shijima freezes because a skeleton should have stopped Kanagi already. He glances back and sees the others still battling their demons. Yet Kanagi's assigned skeleton lies on the ground, sliced perfectly apart. While Shijima processes that sight, Kanagi smashes a fist into his face. The powerful blow sends Shijima skidding backward across the ground. Even Suo cannot hide his admiration for Kanagi's devastating punch. Kanagi proposes combining their strength and defeating Shijima together. For a brief moment, the offer leaves Suo speechless. Hinata and Akane remain occupied, while Kanagi has already won his battle. Yet Suo's pride overwhelms any willingness to accept that support. He bluntly refuses, declaring himself fully capable of fighting alone. Kanagi stares in disbelief, but their disagreement cannot continue. Shijima abruptly closes the distance and interrupts their brewing argument. He releases the Magatsu breath technique, firing a tremendous beam at them. Suo blocks the blast, but Kanagi gets violently hurled away. The devastating impact batters his body and launches him into a tree. His vision grows hazy as consciousness begins slipping from his grasp. While fading, Kanagi sees Hinoki and the mage standing before him. Hinoki explains that fainting brought Kanagi inside his own consciousness. Despite his bruised, aching body, Kanagi desperately struggles upright. He begs them to return him because he must keep fighting. A deep, commanding voice suddenly orders him away from the battle. Outside, Suo barely withstands Shijima's endless barrage of vicious attacks. Shijima smirks and praises Suo for sharing his solitary outlook. Both believe they require nobody else to fight their battles. Grinning ominously, Shijima channels his endless hunger into another strike. He brings it down so violently that Suo's sword snaps apart. Though stunned, Suo quickly summons another blade and attacks again. Shijima effortlessly bends backward, avoiding it with disturbingly unnatural flexibility. His delight only grows as Suo continues struggling against him. Inside the spiritual realm, Kanagi's spirit watches their desperate fight unfold. Everyone there understands that Shijima surpasses every fighter currently present. Hinoki warns Kanagi that this enemy lies far beyond his abilities. The mage adds that Shijima possesses terrifyingly precise control. With more humans nearby, Shijima might already have become a demon king. She warns that consuming Kanagi would make him even more powerful. Empowered further, he could escape and unleash destruction upon civilization. The mage also calls their discovery of the grimoire pure coincidence. Hinoki steps forward and asks Kanagi to surrender his body temporarily. That would allow the two spirits to handle Shijima themselves. To their astonishment, Kanagi immediately rejects Hinoki's proposed solution. He apologizes firmly, explaining that this situation is not training. This battle is real, and he must overcome the obstacle personally. Future challenges will demand the same courage and independent determination. Filled with confidence, Kanagi looks toward them and requests their agreement. The mage attempts to object, but Hinoki cuts her argument short. Hinoki reminds Kanagi that he has already defeated both of them. Placing one hand upon his shoulder, Hinoki recalls Kanagi's bold promise. Kanagi once claimed he would eventually surpass the founders themselves. Hinoki urges him onward, using everything learned while following his own path. Those words strengthen Kanagi's confidence and sharpen his wavering resolve. Facing the battlefield, he asks the founders to keep watching over him. Without hesitating, Kanagi rushes toward Shijima and Suo's continuing fight. By then, Suo looks thoroughly battered beneath Shijima's overwhelming pressure. Just as his eyes open, another strike sends him soaring upward. While flying helplessly through the air, Suo hears a sudden gunshot. Shijima prepares one final attack, intending to finish his airborne opponent. Suo braces for impact, but somebody catches him in mid-air. Kanagi secures both Suo and the sword still within his grasp. Remaining airborne, he swiftly borrows Suo's blade for his own use. With one rapid motion, Kanagi hurls Suo safely downward and away. Suo crashes hard into the ground, safely beyond the incoming magical beam. Still airborne, Kanagi immediately becomes the focus of Shijima's attention. Shijima fires another Magatsu's breath directly toward his suspended opponent. What he sees next leaves him visibly shaken with disbelief. Kanagi calmly assumes Hinoki's one-handed sword style without showing fear. With razor-sharp focus, he slices straight through the approaching magical breath. The clean strike divides Shijima's entire beam neatly down the middle. Maintaining precise control, Kanagi follows by severing Shijima's arm entirely. Shijima stares at the missing limb, horrified and utterly speechless. He cannot understand the sudden reversal, and fury shakes his entire body. Enraged, he bellows about his identity and demands recognition from Kanagi. Kanagi coldly declares that he intends to surpass the founders. The mage asks Hinoki whether Kanagi can defeat the Dark Sorcerer. Hinoki admits that even he cannot predict the battle's outcome. Still, he remains certain Kanagi would never act so recklessly without reason. Hinoki suspects Kanagi learned something while sleeping during their drive here. A broad smile appears as he considers knowledge beyond his own understanding. Suo watches in equal amazement, stunned by Kanagi's smooth, efficient movements. Only moments earlier, Suo had rejected the very assistance now preserving him. Kanagi continues carving relentlessly at Shijima, allowing him no breathing room. Under that pressure, Shijima repeatedly teleports backward to escape the blade. He counters with his dark art pomegranate, launching numerous energy projectiles. Kanagi initially dodges, then notices every projectile curving after his movement. He leaps repeatedly across the battlefield, but the attacks remain close behind. A founder's technique called Aftershock suddenly returns to Kanagi's mind. Slamming one foot downward, he raises a thick stone barrier from below. The barrier intercepts the pursuing blasts and shields him from their impact. Shijima marvels at the tactic, then immediately launches another concentrated barrage. Kanagi repurposes the shattered stone fragments, forming another improvised shield. Spotting an opening, he combines two techniques and flashes behind Shijima. Shijima narrowly evades the surprise strike with only an instant remaining. His immediate counter releases Plate of Yin Blast directly into Kanagi. Kanagi suffers the hit, though he absorbs most of its destructive force. Using a floating rock as leverage, he springs forward for another assault. Drawing upon the founder's lessons, he launches himself directly at Shijima. Shijima evades again, yet Kanagi's diverse techniques leave him visibly stunned. Even the distant founders cannot believe his rapid growth and relentless offense. Shijima answers their amazement by invoking his forbidden dark art. By merging countless skeletons, he summons a towering skeletal monstrosity. The colossal creature looms above everyone, radiating overwhelming and sinister power. Smirking confidently, Shijima announces that the battle has finally reached its end. The giant skeleton swings one enormous hand downward toward the motionless Kanagi. Watching from afar, the founders urgently shout for him to escape. Kanagi remains perfectly still, staring directly at the descending skeletal hand. Deep in thought, he judges his current strength insufficient against Shijima. Even fighting at full power would not secure him a victory. To break through, he needs strength beyond every limit he currently possesses. Kanagi recalls the teachings he received from both the mage and Hinoki. From the mage, he remembers how to control the power of Shining Flame. Hinoki's one-handed sword method also returns clearly to his thoughts. He remembers Hinoki demonstrating Waveblade alongside numerous specialized slashing techniques. Kanagi channels Shining Flame through his hand while empowering his sword. Hinoki's sword technique merges with that fire, creating a blazing weapon. Both Hinoki and the mage stare in shock at the impossible combination. Kanagi has accomplished something neither observer believed could actually be done. Gripping his newly empowered sword, he steadies himself for the decisive attack. This unprecedented technique bears the name Blazing Fire Cutting Blade. He charges straight at the skeletal beast, his fiery sword already swinging. Shijima can only watch the approaching attack in disbelieving horror. During the charge, Kanagi revisits Hinoki's lessons and the mage's magical arts. He wants power beyond merely borrowing those two separate teachings. That determination lets him wield blazing fire-cutting blade at full strength. Flames engulf his sword as he delivers one swift, decisive swing. The strike splits the giant skeleton vertically from skull to feet. That same blazing arc also slices Shijima's body into two halves. Everyone stares in amazement at his fusion of two distinct magical disciplines. The alchemist founder appears especially astonished by Kanagi's unprecedented ability. He calls Kanagi an irregular capable of switching and combining countless techniques. Such effortless fusion exceeds everything the alchemist founder expected from him. He suspects Kanagi's hidden potential may reach even more extraordinary heights. Suddenly, the alchemist founder vanishes, leaving Hinoki confused by his departure. Having overheard his assessment, the mage agrees they underestimated Kanagi's abilities. A trace of concern follows as she questions whether raising him is wise. Hinoki feels only excitement, eager to discover how far Kanagi can grow. Kanagi lands heavily, exhausted after unleashing his newly created attack. His relief vanishes when Shijima begins regenerating through his own spilled blood. Furious, Shijima snarls that a strike through his head could have killed him. Gathering dark energy, he forms Death Call and vows to finish everything personally. Suo suddenly appears behind Shijima and slashes directly across his throat. Shijima's head tumbles free, his expression frozen in stunned disbelief. As the body collapses, Suo grabs the now unconscious Kanagi and supports him. Cradling Kanagi awakens a distant memory buried within Suo's mind. He remembers his older brother once carrying him in precisely this manner. They had sheltered beneath a bridge during one bitterly freezing night. Snow blanketed the ground around them as both brothers endured the cold. That night, his older brother had begun making him a solemn promise. His brother promises to bring Suo something to eat by morning. Suo slowly drifts asleep beneath the sheltering bridge. Overhead, a magnificent parade rolls past amid jubilant cheers. Below, the brothers tremble in freezing darkness with empty stomachs. That painful memory explains why Suo ultimately embraces solitude. Shijima had exploited his loneliness, hoping to control him through it. Yet Kanagi's unconscious weight reveals that Suo still has companions. Even if solitude returns, he knows he can withstand it. As that thought settles, the barrier surrounding them begins splintering. Akane and Hanada rush inside, alarmed by Kanagi's motionless body. They examine him and confirm that he has merely fainted. Hanada notices the barrier collapsing outward from its inner surface. She urgently warns everyone that they must respond immediately. Then she asks what happens if the trapped energy erupts outward. Gripping his sword, Suo says the blast will crush them all. Their sole chance is deflecting it with their strongest combined attack. His voice sounds certain, but inwardly Suo doubts their exhausted strength. Still, no alternative remains, so everyone prepares for impact. Without awakening, Kanagi suddenly raises his sword and gathers energy. Suo stares in shock at the unconscious swordsman's impossible movement. Within Kanagi's mind, Hinoki assumes control and guides his body. The barrier detonates, forcing everyone to release their remaining power. Hinoki answers with Kanagi's one-handed splitting cloud sword attack. Beyond the barrier, a scarlet-haired captain approaches with two subordinates. The two men warn him that the barrier is nearing collapse. An instant later, the entire barrier violently bursts apart. Both subordinates fear their group has arrived too late. Then brilliant blue light surges skyward from Kanagi's raised sword. The scarlet-haired captain watches the radiant beam with astonished admiration. He recognizes a flawless sword technique containing no trace of hesitation. The captain is Makoto, commander of the anti-prophecy unit. Studying the spectacle, Makoto wonders who could have produced it. Later, Midori rides atop a plane traveling over distant foreign land. He calls Makoto, amazed that their newcomer stopped the unknown prophecy. Back in Seoul, Makoto answers while confronting a rank 1 prophecy. According to him, this threat far surpasses their previous encounter. Perched on the aircraft, Midori smiles at his unit's remarkable growth. He regrets being unable to witness that progress with his own eyes. His amusement fades when Makoto identifies Kanagi as the victorious core member. That same Kanagi joined their team only 2 days earlier. Shaken by this revelation, Makoto desperately asks who Kanagi truly is. Midori confidently declares that Kanagi will bring every prophecy to an end. They have anticipated his arrival for a very long time. A persistent expectation surrounded him, marking him as their awaited figure. Skeptical of such enormous hopes, Makoto questions whether that faith is justified. Rather than debate him, Midori simply says to witness Kanagi personally. Changing subjects, Makoto urges Midori to return as soon as possible. Without him, battling an equally powerful opponent is proving extremely difficult. Midori chuckles, gives a brief apology, and redirects his attention. Urgency enters his voice as he describes a grand prophecy ahead. The colossal enemy is a super-rank prophecy commanding a suicidal infection. As the monster charges, Midori tells Makoto to endure a little longer. He promises to finish his own battle very soon. Extending one hand, Midori unleashes a divine wind turbulence attack. Inside a hospital ward, Kanagi's eyes suddenly snap open. A startled cry escapes him as he jerks upright. The attending nurse announces that he has finally regained consciousness. Kanagi has slept inside the anti-prophecy infirmary since his mission ended. Hearing this, he wonders whether he simply lost consciousness. His sleep was too deep to enter the spatial training realm. He never even managed to train there with the founders. The nurse assures him that his physical condition is stable. She draws back the curtain and tells him to call when needed. Beyond it, Suo sits nearby with his arms tightly crossed. Kanagi wonders whether Suo has only recently awakened himself. He also questions whether Suo watched over him the entire time. Looking around, Kanagi notices that Hinata and Akane are absent. Curious about their whereabouts, he asks Suo where they went. Suo explains that both are currently training out of frustration. They consider themselves useless because of their performance during the last battle. With calm acceptance, Suo states that Kanagi's power was overwhelming. Praise from someone like Suo leaves Kanagi genuinely stunned. Then Suo abruptly rises and aggressively demands Kanagi's true identity. In under 2 days, Kanagi defeated rank 3 and a potential rank 1 boss. He also wielded a rare fusion spell Suo had never witnessed. Pressing harder, Suo again demands to know who Kanagi really is. He also insists on learning how he can become equally powerful. As Suo demands answers, Makoto enters and asks whether Kanagi is his target. Kanagi confirms it while Suo recoils at his older brother's unexpected appearance. Makoto passes him with scarcely a glance and approaches Kanagi. Uneasily, Kanagi asks whether Makoto truly is Suo's older brother. The question barely lands when Makoto draws his sword without warning. His blade slices through the air, missing everyone by mere inches. Suo and Kanagi both freeze, blindsided by the sudden strike. Kanagi evades and wonders whether this attack is some test. Makoto is equally startled that an ordinary trainee dodged his swing. He confirms the strike was a test and declares Kanagi passed. Without delay, he introduces himself as Makoto, captain of Suo's squad. The truth hits Kanagi hard. Makoto really is Suo's older brother. After pausing, Makoto cites Kanagi's exceptional showing against the rank 1 disaster. That achievement earns Kanagi a temporary place within his squad. The announcement stuns Kanagi, but Suo looks even more shaken. Jealousy stirs because Makoto has never permitted his own brother inside that squad. Makoto wastes no time and summons Kanagi to a briefing at once. Behind them, Suo clenches so fiercely that his knuckles start bleeding. Over in the training hall, the anti-prophecy pair drills without mercy. Akane attacks with several weapons as Hinata concentrates on blocking, yet both understand that Kanagi's level remains almost impossible to reach. During their practice, Midori strolls in carrying chocolates from Peru. To his surprise, they ignore the sweets and rush toward him. Both eagerly ask how long he plans to remain in Korea. Midori says 1 week, and they instantly demand his training. Neither intends to let Kanagi outpace them without a fight. Their fierce resolve catches Midori off guard, but he agrees. He then asks whether Suo also wants to participate. Right then, Suo arrives wearing an expression of absolute determination. He firmly confirms that he intends to train alongside them. Out in the hall, Kanagi matches Makoto's rapid pace as he leads onward. Back inside, everyone stares at Suo's equally intense resolve. Suo explains that Makoto personally scouted Kanagi for temporary squad duty. The news shocks the duo, revealing how astonishingly far Kanagi has advanced. Personal recruitment by Makoto is clearly no minor accomplishment. Suo instead treats it as proof of his own failings. Compared with Kanagi, he believes his abilities need far greater improvement. Along the hallway, Kanagi asks what their upcoming meeting concerns. Makoto says it concerns a mission departing the following morning. He abruptly stops walking and asks whether Kanagi is close to Suo. Kanagi remembers their last battle, when Suo loaned him his sword. With visible excitement, he confirms that they are indeed close. Makoto sounds detached, though hidden concern for Suo constantly troubles him. Since he conceals those feelings, Suo assumes Makoto hates him. Suo also believes his brother neither notices nor cares about him. During Makoto's earlier visit, he had not deliberately ignored Suo. He simply could not bear seeing his younger brother's wounds. Suo misread that averted gaze as cold dismissal. Now he risks his life and chases strength for Makoto's attention. Makoto wants the opposite, valuing Suo's safety above greater power. Their unspoken misunderstanding fuels Suo's obsession with surpassing Kanagi. Only that achievement, he believes, will finally earn Makoto's recognition. Someday, Suo even hopes to defeat his older brother personally. Still curious, Kanagi presses until Makoto admits he truly cares about Suo. Kanagi finds the reluctant confession genuinely heartwarming. Back in the training area, Akane finds Suo's explanation deeply confusing. Despite dreaming of surpassing Makoto, Suo still respects him profoundly. While resuming drills with Hinata, Akane reduces everything to one truth. In the end, she says Suo merely craves his brother's attention. Hinata finds that touching, but the comment ignites Suo's fury. During the briefing, Kanagi learns the squad follows 3 core rules. The first rule demands speed above all else. The second requires relentless offensive pressure against every target. Third, every squad member must conquer personal weaknesses. Within the Counterforce division, Makoto's squad holds the greatest combat ability. It operates with at least 7 members, keeping its structure small and elite. Their main assignments target threats ranked 1 or higher. Under escort, a helicopter carries Makoto's squad toward the mission. Hinoki, another squad member, casually says Makoto supplies 90% of their power. He dismisses everyone else as little more than extras. As a temporary addition, Kanagi is not expected to contribute much. Throughout Hinoki's explanation, Kanagi remains absorbed in his phone. Hinoki points this out, and Kanagi quickly apologizes. He explains that he needs to contact his friends. Confused, Hinoki asks what he means by making contact. Kanagi answers that he is currently trying to establish contact. The founders keep nagging Kanagi to contact the other anti-prophecy members. While the group trains, his unexpected message finally reaches them. Its contents shock everyone, with SUO reacting more fiercely than anyone. She wonders what on earth Kanagi was thinking by sending it. The group immediately takes the message over to Midori. Reading carefully, he finds 3 distinct recommendations within the message. Each piece of guidance is specifically designed for a different person. Kanagi also explains in detail how each recipient can become stronger. The quality of his advice leaves Midori genuinely impressed. Smiling, he offers his hand and presents everyone with a choice. They can either follow Kanagi's guidance or reject it outright, treating the offer like a challenge. Every member chooses to accept. Suo responds most passionately, her anger blazing hotter than everyone else's. To her, Kanagi has deliberately rubbed salt into their injuries. Aboard the aircraft, Ayo announces that they have reached their destination. Kanagi wipes the window and stares outside in astonishment. An immense snowy mountain range stretches across the land below. Gigantic crystal spikes also protrude ominously from the frozen ground. Their assignment involves confronting the rank 1 prophecy called Frozen Earth. This catastrophe threatens to place the entire planet beneath permanent ice. Frozen regions are already expanding outward at a deeply alarming speed. Left alone, the phenomenon could engulf Earth and eradicate every living thing. The same disaster is unfolding simultaneously across 17 separate locations. Those sites span several countries, with many appearing inside populated cities. Their urban locations make the rapidly developing crisis even more dangerous. Vice Captain Ichika briefs the entire squad about the situation. She stresses that even the smallest delay could prove disastrous. Current reports show the freezing effect spreading faster than initially predicted. Leading the operation, Makoto says the helicopter cannot safely continue forward. He orders everyone to exit through the helicopter's rear hatch. First, he reminds them that no human lives may be harmed. To raise morale, Makoto commands everyone to recite their 3 squad rules. The squad responds by roaring all 3 rules together. Waiting near the rear, Kanagi remembers how his previous battle ended. Once again, he ultimately needed Hinoki's help to survive it. He intends to become stronger throughout this temporary assignment. Working beside these experienced members offers him an invaluable learning opportunity. As the squad jumps, Kanagi silently resolves to finish independently. After all, this marks his first encounter with a rank 1 prophecy. Everyone lands safely on the ground at exactly 10:17 am. The vicious mountain cold bites into them almost immediately. Ayo catches a cold despite possessing the body of an awakener. Confused, he asks how ordinary temperature could affect him so badly. Ichika explains that conditions are far colder than official reports suggested. That unexpected severity may explain why the cold affected him. She adds that the frozen territory covers an enormous area. Because of its size, she recommends establishing camp halfway through. Makoto considers her proposal, but keeps his thoughts entirely private. Kanagi asks Ayo whether Frozen Earth appears inside any prophecy book. Ayo says it does not exist in any known recorded prophecy. Instead, the prophecy unit discovered it through their specialized predictive abilities. Countless prophecies exist, but this achievement remains unprecedented within the unit. No member had ever successfully detected a rank 1 prophecy before. Its overwhelming severity explains why Makoto's squad received the assignment. Although satisfied with the answer, Kanagi still appears slightly uneasy. Ichika notices his nervous expression and offers him some reassurance. Feeling nervous is healthier than becoming careless and lowering his guard. Still, she warns him against letting anxiety become a heavy burden. Ayo places one reassuring hand upon Kanagi's shoulder. He repeats her advice and reminds Kanagi who surrounds him. They are traveling with the prophecy unit's finest possible crew. Ichika immediately yells at Ayo for behaving far too casually. Under her glare, he apologizes without the slightest hesitation. Suddenly alert, Ayo raises one hand and reports a radar detection. Enemies are approaching from 2 o'clock, roughly 200 meters away. Ichika acknowledges his warning and disappears from sight in an instant. Only moments later, she returns after personally scouting the area. Her search reveals 30 monsters carrying an estimated S3 ranking. They are ice gargoyles belonging to the Frozen Tice tribe. Upon hearing her report, Makoto orders their immediate annihilation. The squad rushes toward the approaching creatures with flawless coordinations. Their teamwork and constant battlefield awareness leave Kanagi staring in amazement. These fighters operate on a vastly different level from ordinary trainees. Kanagi understands that they are elite, surpassing the unit's regular members. Eager to participate, he asks Makoto for permission to attack. Makoto grants it, dismissing their opponents as merely S3 threats. With approval secured, Kanagi surges forward and kicks one monster's head. To his disbelief, the creature suddenly detonates upon receiving the blow. Jagged shards burst outward and scatter dangerously in every direction. Ichika gracefully avoids an especially dazzling monster's incoming strike. She warns that exceptionally powerful creatures are hiding among the weaker ones. Kanagi activates his fire-cutting blade and releases a blazing attack. The fiery slash destroys another monster and hurls its remains away. Watching closely, Ayo cannot believe Kanagi wielded a Fury Sword technique. Ichika also looks impressed by the unexpected display of power. Makoto dispatches the remaining monsters effortlessly with several simple sword swings. He also takes careful note of Kanagi's flame-covered weapon. The mysterious blue light beam he witnessed earlier now makes sense. Makoto concludes that the strange light must have originated from this blade. After clearing the monsters, everyone establishes camp among the mountains. The squad settles down and begins eating together around their camp. During the meal, Ichika asks what else Ayo's radar detected. He reports no boss-level presences anywhere within a 10-kilometer radius. Relieved by his findings, Ichika releases a long sigh. That clear reading means the squad can safely remain overnight. Her relief fades when she notices 2 people are missing. Ichika wonders where Kanagi and the captain have disappeared to. Elsewhere, Kanagi sits alone beside his own crackling campfire. He concentrates intensely, attempting to fuse his spells together once again. His renewed concentration makes the fusion proceed more smoothly than earlier attempts. Makoto suddenly appears behind him and praises his passion for training. Startled, Kanagi nearly leaps straight out of his own skin. Makoto's silent approach has frightened him almost senseless. After soothing him, the captain takes a seat beside the fire. He asks whether this first camping trip feels difficult for Kanagi. Kanagi eagerly insists that he is handling everything perfectly well. Instead, Makoto casually admits he only wants to return home and smoke. Someone like the captain discussing cigarettes is the last thing Kanagi expected. His surprise becomes alarm when Makoto says he desperately needs to smoke his cat. Mistaking the phrase for drug talk, Kanagi immediately questions him. He demands an explanation about this mysterious cat and Makoto's intentions. Makoto leans uncomfortably close, produces his phone, and displays a photograph. Kanagi asks for the cat's name, and Makoto answers Oribe. Studying the picture, Kanagi notices Oribe's remarkably ferocious glare. Rather than mentioning it, he asks whether Makoto truly misses him. Surprisingly, Makoto denies missing the troublesome creature at all. Oribe scratches his belongings, vomits everywhere, and behaves like an absolute nightmare. Despite those crimes, Makoto admits the cat remains impossibly adorable. He adds that Oribe resembles his younger brother Suo in that way. Kanagi finds Makoto's affectionate manner strange, but continues listening quietly. With sudden hopefulness, Makoto shares one wish concerning his brother. Someday, he wants to speak with Suo as comfortably as with Kanagi. As an only child, Kanagi admits he cannot understand that feeling. Still, he suggests treating Suo exactly the way Makoto treats Oribe. Makoto smiles at the proposal and agrees that it might work. He then opens several videos of Oribe on his phone. The footage shocks Kanagi because Makoto handles Oribe like a tiny baby. Amused by his reaction, Makoto asks whether such behavior is truly acceptable. His expression softens as he asks Kanagi to practice with him. Kanagi privately wants no part of that unusual practice session. Ichika arrives while searching for them, sparing Kanagi from answering. She asks them to return because everyone must leave early tomorrow. Makoto accepts the reminder without raising even the slightest complaint. That night, the squad remains unaware of someone crossing the snowy wilderness. The mysterious traveler wears casual clothing better suited for a beach. Undeterred by the cold, he continues deeper into the frozen territory. When challenged, he claims to be fulfilling that place's prophecy. A small book rests in his hand as he explains himself. He declares that he wants the beach, yet somehow also does not. Upon arriving there, he says the journey becomes an important mission. This lone awakener approaches the same mountain as Makoto's squad. Back at camp, Kanagi trains with the founders inside his dreams. Today's lesson focuses on archery to strengthen his concentration. Under Midori's guidance, he struggles to draw an unusually heavy bow. Seeing sweat cover him, she asks whether sustained focus feels painful. Nearby, Hinoki loudly complains that today should involve sword practice. The mage quickly silences him, noting yesterday already belonged to him. Despite their racket, Kanagi never lets his attention leave the target. Midori marvels at his progress since their first concentration session. Kanagi explains that his current mission includes an exceptionally capable team. Their strength pushes him to perform at the highest possible level. Keeping his eyes fixed forward, he finally releases the arrow. The shot lands precisely in the bullseye, astonishing Midori with its accuracy. Kanagi collapses onto the ground and releases a deeply relieved sigh. Midori ends the lesson, warning him never to forget that sensation. She remains impressed by how steadily he maintained his concentration throughout training. Once Hinoki hears training has ended, excitement immediately takes over. He draws his sword and orders Kanagi back onto his feet. Their sword session never begins because the waiting squad awakens Kanagi. Morning has arrived and everyone must resume the expedition immediately. Prior to departure, Makoto gathers everyone for a concise briefing. Today, he declares they will kill the boss connected to the prophecy. Farther along their route, another swarm of monsters blocks their advance. This new threat consists of an entire flock of blue birds. The squad surges forward together, ready to tear through them. Inside Kannagi, the founders predict an easy victory for such a powerful team. One mage notices an older founder looking unexpectedly troubled. The veteran senses something deeply wrong beneath the seemingly simple battle. Nevertheless, the squad defeats the monsters and opens the route ahead. Makoto immediately orders Hanada to scout the territory in front. Hanada detects a major boss roughly 2,000 meters from their position. Worse still, the creature is already rushing directly toward them. His next report warns that it will arrive within 10 seconds. Almost instantly, a colossal figure tears across the frozen landscape. The approaching monster is the unknown god Kalami. She charges forward wearing a ferocious and disturbingly manic expression. Her overwhelming aura resembles nothing the squad has ever encountered. Makoto immediately commands everyone to attack the incoming boss. Every squad member flashes forward with flawless timing and coordination. Hanada strikes first, using his power to shackle the creature. Minato darts around the restrained creature, slashing from every possible angle. To everyone's horror, neither fighter leaves even a single wound. Their coordinated assault ends with the boss still perfectly unharmed. She prepares a counterattack, then senses something descending from overhead. Kannagi plunges from above, bringing his sword down with tremendous force. He recalls Akane and Hanoki teaching him the proper vertical slash. Following their advice, he opens with his strongest possible technique. Kannagi pours everything into his blazing, fire-splitting sword. A searing beam erupts from the blade and strikes the boss. Shock grips him when the flames fail to harm her. She instantly retaliates, smashing him downward with her own sword. The violent impact convinces Haitani that Kannagi has just died. Yet an ice crystal cushions his landing and saves his life. Still attacking, Minato finally understands the boss's #1 ranking. She looks toward Makoto, knowing their survival now depends on him. Makoto calmly draws his sword and steps into the battle. Haitani immediately shackles Kannagi, hauling him away from the battlefield. He argues that interfering would only obstruct their captain. As they withdraw, the boss swings at Makoto with overwhelming strength. The strike's pressure erupts outward, making Kannagi fear for Makoto. Astonishingly, Makoto halts her blade mere inches from his body. She attacks again, but he blocks just as effortlessly. His immediate counter cleaves one of the boss's arms away. Hanoki watches excitedly and declares that he wants to try. Growing uneasy, Kannagi firmly refuses to surrender control of his body. Makoto faces the wounded boss and calmly explains his intentions. He wanted his crew to experience fighting an enemy this powerful. Their lesson is finished, so he will personally end the battle. His crew quickly raises a protective barrier around their position. Once protected, Makoto channels his red dragon skill through his sword. Blazing flames surge outward, engulfing the battlefield around him. He merges that power with crimson light and unleashes a colossal inferno. The blast tears through the boss, erasing nearly half her body. Kannagi stares in disbelief at the terrifying difference in power. Makoto's flaming sword technique resembles his own, yet vastly surpasses it. Without the barrier, everyone nearby might have burned into grey dust. Kannagi quietly apologizes to the boss for what must happen. He says protecting the world remains his unavoidable duty. Then he inexplicably meows, flooding everyone with painful borrowed embarrassment. Watching closely, Kannagi notices Makoto's method differs greatly from Hanoki's. Every movement proves that his skill belongs on another level. Overwhelmed with admiration, Kannagi desperately wants Makoto to teach him. Makoto follows with another slash, slicing fully through the boss. Without warning, a streak of light tears across the battlefield. Makoto's arm suddenly separates from his body and tumbles away. He turns in disbelief and sees a massive hole through Haitani. Kannagi frantically scans the battlefield as horror overwhelms him. One after another, his comrades are ripped apart by unseen force. Blood covers the ground while their broken bodies collapse around him. Seeing Haitani fall, Kannagi rushes forward to support him. With his remaining strength, Haitani shoves Kannagi out of danger. Kannagi staggers backward, unable to accept the slaughter before him. Seconds earlier, these same comrades were fighting beside him. Near death, Haitani bitterly regrets failing to detect the attack. His radar missed the incoming threat, allowing this devastating massacre. As he falls, Haitani apologizes to his captain for failing. He only hopes the survivors identified where the attack originated. Minato remains unharmed, but the same beam pierces several others. Gripping his severed arm, Makoto orders everyone behind the surrounding terrain. He identifies the beam as a skill-based attack. Everyone obeys immediately, scattering through the area for their lives. While fleeing, Minato calls for a wounded squadmate to follow. The squadmate hesitates, fearing for their captain's severe injury. No guard exists against the beam that took Makoto's arm clean off. Even barriers fail because it annihilates everything along its path. Another beam races toward Makoto, forcing him to leap aside. Minato watches fearfully as the boss launches an unending barrage. Worse, the creature regenerates while continuing her relentless assault. Minato concludes they need one decisive burst to destroy her. She turns toward Kanagi and finds him kneeling motionless. He stares at his fallen comrades, paralyzed by unbearable shock. In a trembling whisper, Kanagi begs the founder Eva for help. He asks whether she can resurrect everyone who just died. Looking embarrassed and sorrowful, Eva apologizes to him. She admits that restoring the dead lies beyond her power. Kanagi falls silent, then steadies himself with a deep breath. He calls upon every founder dwelling within him for assistance. Kanagi admits he wanted to handle everything without their help. He confesses that he cannot accomplish this entirely by himself. Still, he begins insisting that he can do it on his own. His confidence finally cracks, and he accepts needing their help again. Hinoki immediately steps forward and assumes control of Kanagi's body. Elsewhere, Makoto studies the strike that slipped past Akane's radar. That radar only senses danger within a 3-kilometer radius. Thus, the unseen attack must have come from farther away. A single blow killed Akane and severed Makoto's arm. Its power proves the concealed enemy is at least Makoto's equal. He refuses to let his fallen comrade's sacrifices become meaningless. Pushing past his limits, Makoto draws power beyond his usual capacity. His sharpened senses search beyond 3 kilometers for one precise point. Even the obstacles hiding his enemy cannot obstruct that search. Gripping his sword, he remembers everyone who died there today. Their deaths harden his resolve into something utterly unshakable. Crimson radiance floods the blade as Makoto unleashes blazing destruction. The inferno tears across the earth, erasing everything along its route. Finally, the flames expose the one responsible for that lethal spell. The caster is the same casual boy who arrived there alone. He praises Makoto for locating him after only one attack. Such perception befits the captain commanding the strongest squad. Makoto stares in shock because the casual boy devoured his attack. He admits Makoto could have killed him if his left arm remained. Dark orbs circle him, channeled through a spell called Darkness. Advancing calmly, he launches one orb filled with murderous intent. Makoto answers by swinging his sword and raising an icy barrier. He counters instantly, disappearing and emerging behind the casual boy. His blade flashes toward the casual boy's exposed neck. Another devastating beam suddenly tears a massive chunk from Makoto's torso. Still unharmed, the casual boy says he predicted Makoto's maneuver. He coolly adds that Makoto stands much closer to death. That remark sends a surge of fury through Makoto. Gathering his remaining strength, he lunges and swings his sword. The casual boy sidesteps and kicks directly into Makoto's open wound, yet Makoto has already prepared for that exact opening. He smashes the sword's back against him, hurling him downward. Watching the fall, Makoto questions why the beam suddenly stopped. The casual boy only fired that overwhelming attack several times. Despite its power, he apparently cannot maintain it indefinitely. Makoto concludes that darkness cannot be used continuously. In endurance alone, he judges them evenly matched. Landing neatly on his feet, the casual boy confirms that assessment. Still, he notes that their physical conditions are nowhere near equal. Makoto has lost one arm and nearly half his body, yet Makoto refuses to recognize anything called a disadvantage. He recalls the 3 rules governing his squad. Those principles fill his battered body with renewed determination. Makoto prepares to continue fighting until his final breath. Fiery electricity surges through him, scorching his wounds shut. Again and again, every remaining path toward hope appears sealed. Even so, his sharpened eyes keep the casual boy's position fixed. Makoto struggles to declare what he intends to do next. The casual boy narrows his eyes as Makoto's sorrow pours outward. He sees Makoto feeding his remaining life into power for his squad. Enough is enough, so he also fuels darkness with his essence. Both fighters now hover near death, with almost nothing remaining. Makoto warns the casual boy never to underestimate his squad. Even at death's edge, he repeats that warning with fierce conviction. Behind the others, Kanagi's hair turns white under Hinoki's control. The other squad members keep running until the boss abruptly stops them. She remains formidable, regenerating the arms she previously lost. Witnessing this, Ichika worries she cannot subjugate the boss alone. She calls toward Kanagi, who remains kneeling behind everyone. To her, his fighting spirit vanished after seeing his squad mates die. That reaction seems natural for someone who only recently joined them. To Ichika's astonishment, Kanagi suddenly rises from the ground. A blinding flash follows as he rockets toward the boss. His devastating kick launches her violently through the air. Across the battlefield, Makoto and the casual boy exchange relentless blows. Holding only half his sword, Makoto releases another scarlet flash. The casual boy barely escapes by tilting his body aside. Despite dodging, uneasiness begins creeping across his expression. Avoiding Makoto's flames becomes more difficult with every passing instant. Flames his darkness should have erased now reappear and strike him again. His manual control over darkness also nears its absolute limit. Sensing danger, the casual boy launches a storm of dark orbs. Makoto swiftly dodges and rushes through the opening. One clean slash severs the casual boy's arm entirely. Their positions are now reversed, with Makoto holding the advantage. Yet the casual boy springs forward despite losing his arm. His knee crashes directly into Makoto's already wounded arm. Agony drops Makoto to the ground as his enemy approaches. Looking down, the casual boy dismisses losing an arm as meaningless. Makoto still has a gaping wound punched through his stomach. Then his enemy reveals he anticipated Makoto's entire strategy. From the opening attack, he expected Makoto to choose close combat. He praises Makoto's strength, quick decisions, and refusal to waste time. Yet that efficient thinking also makes every move painfully predictable. That predictability, he declares, guarantees Makoto's defeat. Reaching into his bag, he draws out a mysterious book. He raises it, claiming its contents have already determined Makoto's loss. Makoto's eyes widen upon recognizing the ominous Book of Doom. The casual boy opens it and exposes a disturbing truth. If one organization stops prophecies, another naturally works to fulfill them. Makoto freezes, never having known such an organization even existed. His enemy identifies himself among 12 apostles, serving the apocalypse. He is Darkness's 12th apostle, destined to complete the prophecy. Still disbelieving, Makoto asks why he obsessively seeks widespread destruction. Flipping through pages, the casual boy answers with a taunting smirk. He asks whether revealing his reason would earn Makoto's forgiveness. The shameless mockery ignites Makoto's fury without delay. He swings with full force, nearly slicing through his enemy's shoulder. Makoto believes victory remains possible because his enemy lacks mana. The casual boy's battered body also appears dangerously close to collapse. Makoto channels the red dragon form, certain it will ensure victory. Despite his nearly severed shoulder, his enemy remains upright. He coldly announces that Makoto has finally reached his end. Next, he produces a potion and drains it instantly. A spectacular explosion of light erupts around his wounded body. The brilliance blinds Makoto and conceals a devastating incoming fist. That punch smashes his face and hurls him onto the ground. As dust clears, Makoto stares at the impossible recovery. Every wound he inflicted has vanished, restoring his enemy's full strength. The casual boy explains that his potion was actually an artifact. Its power heals him entirely, restoring both of his ruined arms. Makoto again unleashes his scarlet light blade toward him. A slicing wave races across the battlefield at the casual boy. Dark orbs scatter the wave, then surge forward in a counterattack. A relentless barrage pounds Makoto from multiple directions. Shock grips him, because nations should strictly control such artifacts. No ordinary organization should ever possess something so overwhelmingly powerful. The casual boy kicks directly into Makoto's open stomach wound. Makoto crashes down, seemingly drawing his final breaths. Seeing him broken, the casual boy releases a relieved sigh. He believes his relentless opponent has finally been defeated. Shock locks Makoto's thoughts while his battered body shuts down. That same crushing shock continues gripping both his mind and body. Neither his awareness nor his flesh escapes the paralyzing state. Makoto remains buried in shock, his body equally unresponsive. Childhood memories and images of his comrades suddenly flood Makoto's mind. Even now, he stretches one trembling hand toward his sword. He remembers Kanagi advising him to treat his brother like a cat. The strange memory pulls a smile across his bloodied face. Renewed determination lets Makoto grasp his sword once more. As he prepares to swing, a darkness beam tears through him. The blast fully severs the hand, still clutching his weapon. Certain of victory, the casual boy offers Makoto a final farewell. He prepares to deliver the finishing strike at last. Suddenly, someone splits apart the crystal formation behind the casual boy. Kanagi emerges through the opening, interrupting the execution. Every founder stands behind him, equally prepared for vengeance. They intend to punish the man who reduced their disciple to tears. Makoto spots Kanagi and initially fears for his safety. Soon, he senses that Kanagi has brought something more with him. An unfamiliar force radiates powerfully from Kanagi's entire presence. The casual boy also detects the abnormal aura surrounding Kanagi. Kanagi no longer resembles an easy, defenseless target. Instead, he seems like an existence ready to defend himself ferociously. Growing anxious, the casual boy orders Kanagi to remain still. He threatens to kill Makoto immediately if Kanagi moves. During that warning, his arm suddenly separates from his body. The casual boy stares in shock, unable to understand the speed. From far away, Kanagi merely completes a single sword swing. The strike's sheer force even leaves his blade visibly dulled. Every founder notices, stunned that one attack already blunted the sword. The alchemist founder intervenes, transmuting several fresh weapons for Kanagi. Eyes burning for payback, Kanagi commands all the founders to strike together. The casual boy regrows his missing arm, leaving Hanoki visibly stunned. The mage founder identifies Reversal, an ability unheard of among modern awakeners. She suspects his artifact continuously repairs injuries until its power expires. During her explanation, Kanagi fires an arrow straight into his skull. The casual boy never anticipates it, yet the wound closes instantly. One founder asks the mage how they can finally kill him. She answers that repeated deaths will eventually become permanent. The casual boy summons darkness while Kanagi knocks another arrow. Once released, the darkness surges forward and attempts an interception. Kanagi's arrow punches through, striking both his chest and head. The archer founder scoffs at his foolish attempt to block it. After regenerating, the casual boy retaliates through a dark orb. Borrowing a founder's evasive skill, Kanagi dodges and flashes forward. His sudden advance ends with a kick across the casual boy's face. Kanagi seizes his hand, then slams a palm into his face. A founder notices the surrounding orbs are obstructing the casual boy's arms. That restriction prevents his annihilation beam and makes dodging far easier. Kanagi crushes his stomach with another blow, launching him into the ground. The founders wonder how often they must witness this repetitive death cycle. Kanagi then approaches Makoto, whose battered body barely remains conscious. From the ground, Makoto asks whether this person is truly Kanagi. He denies it, explaining that heroic founders currently command his body. Using a founder's preserved healing power, he begins restoring Makoto's arms. Kanagi warns that time is scarce, so they must move quickly. Watching him depart, Makoto understands the founders are controlling everything. Nearby, the casual boy rises, bewildered by their effortless dodges and counters. Kanagi denies him any thought, driving a spear through his heart. The assault continues mercilessly, killing him repeatedly without any breathing room. One founder asks whether leaving the spear embedded would halt regeneration. Instead, the weapon passes through him as his body starts rebuilding. While he recovers, Kanagi descends with a kick that buries him again. Kanagi wonders which body part returns first after total destruction. The casual boy begins rebuilding himself outward from one surviving hand. Once fully restored, he can only gasp in utter exhaustion. Despite repeated obliteration, he refuses to let some boy defeat him. He decides to murder Makoto, then use the opening to escape. Rushing forward, he finds Kanagi already seated beside Makoto. As protection, Kanagi calmly informs the casual boy that he arrived too late. Hinoki assumes control next, unleashing his sword style through Kanagi's body. A storm of cuts reduces the casual boy into scattered pieces. Even while destroyed, he embraces death as part of his prophecy, yet his conviction falters against something as horrifying as Kanagi. During another regeneration, he repeats his mission and fights down his fear. His remaining hand reaches inside the bag for another artifact. Kanagi severs that arm immediately, denying him the chance to activate it. The artifact spills across the ground, releasing an immense golden enclosure. Its scattered pieces form the prison known as the Sand Cage of Time. The casual boy's healing effect expires, leaving his severed arm unrestored. Relief washes over him because he believes he narrowly survived. Inside the cage, the founders worry as his regenerative power approaches exhaustion. Standing outside, he claims even his darkness cannot break this prison. Since Kanagi remains trapped within, the casual boy believes himself untouchable. With nervous confidence, he starts announcing that he intends to leave. Hinoki interrupts his declaration, shouting for him to watch carefully. A crushing aura suddenly erupts directly behind the casual boy. He turns and sees Makoto standing upright while his recovery continues. So how did Makoto become such an outrageously overpowered monster? The answer begins in childhood, when he trained under the exceptional Midori. Even Midori eventually loses against young Makoto during a sword duel. That defeat convinces Midori to recommend finding an even better teacher. Following the world's strongest awakener's advice, Makoto seeks only elite masters. He becomes the disciple of renowned experts across the entire world. Yet Makoto surpasses every teacher he encounters, regardless of their specialty. Swordsmanship, magic, and agility all prove equally effortless for him. Each frustrated master abandons his training within less than 1 month. Eventually, one teacher recommends the strongest swordsman they know, Ichika. Ichika is Hinoki's younger sister and Makoto's final master. He remains under her guidance for approximately 3 full years. One day during training, Makoto turns toward Ichika with a question. His question concerns a sword technique recorded in a book titled Indomitable. Even Ichika cannot unravel its workings, calling it exclusive to founder Hinoki. Makoto finds this fascinating because he has already read that account. Soon his master admits she has nothing further to teach him. He has already mastered Hinoki's entire one-handed sword style. Still hungry for strength, Makoto asks how he can advance further. Ichika has no answer for pushing his abilities beyond that point. She likens him to a bud, stubbornly refusing to open. Despite endless training, he may never bloom during this lifetime. She only hopes a greater swordsman eventually appears before him. Now, on the battlefield, that long-awaited opportunity unfolds before Makoto. Ichika displays sword techniques whose existence he never even suspected. Her warning echoes that such chances may appear only once. Makoto silently thanks Ichika and presses his severed arms together. Every founder watches in confusion, unable to understand his intention. Kanagi fears for his captain, stranded beyond the cage with their enemy. A familiar aura then surges from Makoto, matching Kanagi's own energy. Inside the Anti-Prophecy faction's training ground, Midori practices beside Ichika. During their training, he suddenly detects an immensely powerful aura. An explosion tears through the area and sends dust billowing everywhere. Dust clears, revealing a gigantic hole punched through the wall. Ichika stares in shock because Midori has already disappeared. Back on the battlefield, the Darkness Wielder cannot comprehend Makoto's feat. Given Makoto's ruined condition, such power should have been impossible. He becomes certain Makoto's next strike will cut him down. Hinoki explains to Kanagi that human beings resemble blooming flowers. Their fullest potential emerges when body or spirit reaches its peak. The same awakening can come through perfecting an ultimate technique. For Makoto, this moment reveals the height of his true potential. Standing behind Kanagi, Hinoki urges him to carve this sight into memory. Kanagi understands the lesson hidden within those solemn words. Like a flower finally opening, Makoto raises both ruined arms. His hands take position as though an invisible sword rests between them. With unwavering resolve, he unleashes the one-handed style's forgotten technique. It is indomitable, the legendary skill described within that book. The Darkness Wielder activates his shadowy defenses with flawless precision. Still, an unseen blade instantly slices his entire body in half. Makoto achieves this without holding any physical weapon whatsoever. Falling apart, the Darkness Wielder wonders whether his end has arrived here. Hinoki praises Makoto for giving physical form to an imagined sword. Though dazed and motionless, Makoto finally feels like his ideal swordsman. He treasures every moment spent among family, friends, comrades, and subordinates. Each experience throughout his life has helped forge greater strength. Accepting that this may be his end, he remembers home. His final thoughts reach his little brother and beloved cat. Inwardly, Makoto offers them both a quiet and heartfelt apology. As consciousness fades, he sees Kanagi approaching with a warm smile. Kanagi extends one hand, offering support to his dying captain. That image shows Makoto that death need not erase everything. Through Kanagi, his legacy can continue onward into the next generation. Makoto grips the offered hand, expresses gratitude, and collapses. The Darkness Wielder's defeat causes the surrounding cage to dissolve. Kanagi races toward his captain, guided by their crest of nothingness. Every other comrade lies lifeless across the devastated battlefield. Just as Makoto starts joining them, Midori comes hurtling into view. He catches his falling friend barely a moment before impact. Makoto dies in Midori's arms at only 23 years old. His life ends following the brutal battle against the Darkness Wielder. At this point, the chat owes him a solemn salute. Clutching the body, Midori sinks into despair and rejects the terrible reality. He remembers questioning Makoto during one of their old training sessions. Midori had asked why Makoto chose to become their squad captain. Within the anti-prophecy unit, Makoto ranked second only to Midori, yet Midori believed nobody could match Makoto fighting at full strength. He wondered whether Makoto considered fighting alone the better path. The question surprised Makoto, who challenged Midori's view of him. He asked whether Midori believed teamwork simply did not suit him. In truth, nothing mattered more to Makoto than his entire team. He struggled to find the right words for explaining those feelings. Suddenly, several comrades contacted him through the room's security camera. One eager comrade excitedly announced another's successful level 2 assignment. The successful comrade proudly wanted their captain hearing the news first. Bursting with excitement, the eager comrade proposed a group lunch celebration. Watching their easy camaraderie leaves Midori visibly taken aback. Makoto then admits how deeply fond he is of every comrade. Even wounded in battle, their presence beside him would bring happiness. Returning to the present, Midori cradles his fallen friend's body. He says Makoto's wish to fight for his comrades has come true. Although most of their companions have fallen, 2 still remain alive. Through tears, Midori closes Makoto's eyes, calling his leadership fully fulfilled. Midori knows he could never shoulder those duties, yet Makoto carries them honorably. Across the battlefield, Kanagi lies grounded with every founder standing behind him. Darkness begins swallowing his awareness as despair tightens around him. The mage blames his collapse on guilt over the station's destruction. Kanagi also condemns his own weakness, deepening that crushing burden. Each founder has likewise lost comrades, friends, and family members. Their hearts shatter while they watch precious companions leave them. Most, including Hinoki, never escape those lingering emotional wounds. Hinoki approaches Kanagi, who kneels beneath suffocating despair. He calls out to Kanagi, hoping to reach him. "I don't want to fight anymore," Kanagi admits without any hope. His heart feels ripped apart by grief and unbearable regret. He believes nobody would have died had the founders fought immediately. Seeking strength for others only turns him into the founders' vessel. Hinoki tries responding, but Kanagi's spiraling thoughts drown him out. In his mind, the hand that clasped Makoto's burns like fire. He wants no more fighting and refuses to watch anyone else die. Kanagi vows to rise beyond every founder without wasting another moment. A brilliant beam suddenly strikes him as that determination erupts. From this day onward, he swears nobody else will die. His resolve has effectively gained 1,000 levels of mental strength. 1 month later, on a mountain near Seoul, Suo spars with Kanagi. Suo unleashes strike after strike, relentlessly testing his defenses. Kanagi evades every blow, then answers with a penetrating attack. Suo blocks it, although a shockwave bursts through the space behind him. Kanagi cannot believe Suo redirects the penetration spell's force so casually. While Kanagi processes that feat, Suo launches an immediate counterattack. Ready for him, Kanagi uses a joint throw to whirl Suo around. Suo kicks from mid-air, but Kanagi catches and blocks the attempt. Kanagi retaliates with a devastating kick aimed straight at Suo. A thunderous shout freezes them just before the blow connects. The voice belongs to Ichika, who has interrupted their spar. How exactly did both fighters reach this remarkable point? Somehow, the destroyer repeatedly appears right in the fight's center. The squad's isolation leaves a deep scar across the anti-prophecy unit. At the fallen member's funeral, grief consumes everyone present. Suo remains frozen before his brother's portrait throughout the entire service. Later, Kanagi approaches his room and spots Suo leaving Makoto's quarters. Suo carries several books along with a small cat. Kanagi recognizes it as the cat Makoto often mentions. This knowledge shocks Suo. Still unaware his brother even keeps one. Before entering that room, he knows nothing about the cute cat or books. Makoto's clothes, food, and private thoughts are equally unknown to him. He discovers each detail only while sorting through Makoto's belongings. Kanagi notices Suo is also carrying a large stack of diaries. Suo intends to take every volume away with him. Makoto leaves them for Suo to read if battle claims his life. They record every daily training session and mission he undertakes. Yet Suo finds something even more striking inside their pages. Every entry ends with Makoto expressing concern for his brother. He wonders how Suo is doing and mentions the cold weather. Makoto even records Suo's accomplishments and important moments in life. Reading alone in his room, Suo finally breaks into tears. He curls upon the floor, overwhelmed by one painful discovery. Everything his brother places on those pages is ultimately about him. Anyone hearing it might instinctively reach for a tear emoji. As Suo shares this, Kanagi says Makoto constantly discusses him. He also frequently speaks about the cat he treasures. The revelation brings fresh tears into Suo's eyes. He vows to grow stronger so Makoto can stop worrying from heaven. Together, they seek Ichika and ask her to train them. Initially cautious, she listens as they explain Suo is Makoto's brother. They also explain that Makoto has fallen during battle. The news shocks Ichika, though she carefully preserves her composure. Speaking together, Suo and Kanagi ask her to make them stronger. Back in the present, Ichika marvels at both fighters' improvement. Suo especially astonishes her with his extraordinary progress. Kanagi promptly asks what she thinks about his own advancement. Ichika answers with an irritated sigh and blunt honesty. She has nothing left to teach because he already knows everything. Jokingly, she says Kanagi should be teaching her instead. Then Ichika kicks a stick toward them, wearing a furious smile. Her expression twists into a wild, almost manic grin. With fierce delight, she declares, "I am the sword, come at me." Suo and Kanagi rush Ichika together, attacking from opposite directions. Suo strikes head-on while Kanagi dives down from overhead. During the clash, Kanagi burns with determination to grow stronger. He remains certain he will become the world's strongest awakener. On Seoul's nighttime streets, Heitani walks alone in a hat and coat. Turning into an alley, he hears someone identify him immediately. The approaching figure calls him one of the 12 apocalyptic apostles. Heitani recognizes the approaching man as Midori as well. Midori demands the location of his base and fellow apostles. Any answer besides that information, he warns, means immediate death. Heitani instantly conjures a bizarre pike shaped like a heart. Weapon raised, he boldly challenges Midori to attack him. A sudden fountain of blood erupts from deep inside the alley. Midori then strolls outside without a single wound. Several anti-prophecy members wait for him beyond the alley. He gives them the recovered book, then turns away. As he leaves, Midori states that only 7 people remain. Their collection now contains exactly 5 prophecy books in total. The anti-prophecy group currently possesses 5 books, without question. Put another way, their secured book count remains 5. Once again, the number of gathered books is 5. For absolute clarity, they are holding precisely 5 books. The running total refuses to change from 5 books. Even after another count, the result stays 5 books. Every tally confirms that they have accumulated 5 books. One final reminder leaves their collection at 5 books. Those books confirm 5 of the 12 apostles have been killed. Midori is already moving onward toward his next target. Inside its top-secret facility for hunting everlasting secrets, Midori's book reaches Ayo. The elderly woman serves as superintendent of the anti-prophecy unit. Minato delivers the book and confirms it came directly from Midori. As Ayo's assistant, he explains the books belong to the apostles. Specifically, these are prophecy books carried by the 12 apocalyptic apostles. Another assistant, Shijima, is also present during the briefing. She suggests these volumes may be fragments of one dismembered book. Ayo opens the volume and dismisses 2 concerns as secondary. Killing apostles and recovering their books are not the central problems. The true concern is Midori operating entirely by himself. Makoto's death appears to have carved a deep wound into him. Troubled by this, Shijima asks what their response should be. Ayo smiles and tells both assistants to leave Midori to her. Once he returns, she promises to prepare tea for him. Minato and Shijima then mention the loss of Makoto's entire squad. Its destruction leaves an open gap within anti-prophecy's ranks. Together, they volunteer to lead and establish a replacement squad. Their proposal sends Ayo into a long, contemplative silence. Elsewhere around Seoul, a Rank 2 rebellion prophecy begins unfolding. Its boss is the prophecy's so-called God of Down. Anti-prophecy fighters battle the prophecy's troops across the area. Yet they struggle badly, defeating only a handful of enemies. Growing anxious, the fighters desperately call for their captain, Hinoki. Hinoki, captain of her own squad, calmly steps forward. To her, these soldiers seem dull and laughably easy. Looking back, she addresses Akane, now temporarily serving under her. Hinoki asks whether Akane can handle the remaining troops. Akane casts her threefold alchemy spell, producing a gigantic mercury mass. She orders everyone backward while pouring mercury across the ground. The liquid races toward the troops and swallows every pair of feet. Once they are trapped, Akane transforms the mercury into gas. Toxic vapor fills their lungs, leaving them coughing and suffocating. She promptly condenses that gas back into liquid mercury. Now the metal sits inside every soldier's body. Using crimson heat, Akane boils the mercury within them. Finally, she hardens it into spikes throughout their bodies. The internal spikes kill every remaining troop instantly. Her squad stares in shock at the seconds-long massacre. Akane snaps her fingers, faces everyone, and announces her completion. Hinoki approaches while applauding and warmly praises Akane's execution. She highlights Akane's command over all three physical states. Better still, one technique contained 4 separate attacks. Hinoki lifts Akane's chin and laments her temporary membership. After training ends, she proposes Akane join their squad permanently. Thrilled by the invitation, Akane says she will consider it. The remaining members marvel at Akane's strength and cuteness. They excitedly wonder whether she might truly join them. Their excitement falters when Hinoki reveals her hilariously practical reason. She only wants Akane around to make every battle easier. After leaving, Akane immediately calls Kanagi with her training update. She has finished Lesson 7, mastering alchemy's 3 physical states. Akane then asks whether he wants to join her. Kanagi agrees while defending his lunch from a prowling cat. Nearby, the alchemy founder marvels that Akane mastered level 7. Kanagi asks him to prepare 3 additional lessons for her. Delighted by the request, the founder readily agrees. Kanagi relays the good news, and Akane thanks him. She adds that Hinata has already reached lesson 8. Another Soul District faces a rank 2 Earth-Eating Beast prophecy. A Sphinx serves as the boss of this dangerous outbreak. Hinata is dispatched there with orders to eliminate it. He unleashes his lightning kick directly into the Sphinx. That single strike utterly destroys the prophecy's boss. Hinata thereby completes level 8's lesson on the lightning kick. His squad captain praises him, then begins presenting a proposal. The captain proposes that Hinata join their squad after his victory. Like Akane, Hinata wants time to consider which squad suits him. He contacts Akane and asks for her advice. Thrilled by their growing rivalry, she eagerly welcomes the coming competition. Whichever squad he selects, she promises to defeat its members. Kanagi joins their group call and celebrates how much both have improved. Inspired by them, he declares that he should resume training. As Kanagi talks, Isuo fumes because the clingy cat always chooses him. He complains noisily while trying to pull the animal away from Kanagi. During their struggle, Akane asks whether they heard about the new squad. Kanagi knows nothing about this rumor, so she explains. A fresh squad will fill the vacancy created by Makoto's missing squad. The member with the greatest achievements will become its captain. Kanagi treats the announcement casually, but Akane has deeper concerns. She says the real issue is whether he wants his own squad. He initially dismisses her suggestion as another playful joke. Then its significance strikes him, leaving Kanagi frozen and speechless. Regaining his composure, he asks why she suggested it. Akane reveals a hidden desire spreading throughout the anti-prophecy ranks. Somewhere in the world exists a force capable of erasing every prophecy. Kanagi reels at this revelation, struggling to absorb its implications. She admits that she also longs for such a force. The whole squad wants one thing, a leader whose resolve never bends. In her judgment, Kanagi possesses everything required from a capable captain. Akane confidently adds that she also has the necessary leadership qualities. Her own squad captain then summons her away from the call. She excuses herself, says goodbye, and leaves Kanagi behind. The conversation keeps him pondering whether he should become a captain. Ichika later asks COA what is troubling Kanagi. He explains their discussion about Kanagi potentially commanding a squad. Ichika believes he could handle the position easily if he desired it. COO agrees with her assessment without any hesitation. Still conflicted, Kanagi seeks guidance from the founders inside him. They seem equally uncertain because each devoted an entire life to serving one master. Consequently, none possesses meaningful experience with independence or leadership. The mage founder angrily brands them useless teachers for failing Kanagi. Hinoki asks the strategy founder to share an opinion. The strategy founder refuses to interfere, insisting the time remains wrong. Someone else already possesses the qualifications needed to guide Kanagi. A wooden spear suddenly slams into the ground mere inches from him. Looking upward, Kanagi finds a spear-bearing stranger standing before him. Ichika approaches and orders him to stop overthinking and continue training. Wearing a wild grin, she challenges him to use Flash Step against her. Kanagi accepts, leaps from the rock, and combines Flash Step with Ripple Step. The combination lets him touch down softly, astonishing Ichika. She privately wonders about the truth behind Kanagi's identity. No ordinary awakener should attain such incredible skill within only 6 months. Kanagi remembers his countless failures during Hinoki's merciless flash step lessons. The painful memory unexpectedly draws a laugh from him. His amusement vanishes when a powerful aura rushes straight toward him. Ichika charges with her wooden staff, overflowing with concentrated energy. Kanagi reacts instantly and slips beyond the weapon's path. Her staff smashes the rock behind him, splitting it neatly apart. Watching nearby, Suo stares at the destruction in shock. Ichika warns that his current concentration makes no difference to her. If necessary, she will forcibly sharpen his attention herself. Slightly nervous now, Kanagi steadies his stance and focuses fully. Within him, Hinoki understands whom the strategy founder considered qualified. The mage founder also recognizes Ichika's exceptional strength among modern awakeners. Such power seems fitting for someone believed to descend from Hinoki. Hinoki denies fathering children and suggests she descends from his brother. Still, he acknowledges her strength after she trains someone as powerful as Makoto. That achievement could make Ichika a living successor to their teachings. Then Hinoki notices her performing Skyfall, an unfamiliar technique. Skyfall fires an electric blast toward Kanagi, who narrowly escapes. Sensing its tremendous power, he understands that Ichika is fighting seriously. She surges forward and immediately unleashes her Purgatory Sword technique. Its devastating strike tears through the space directly before Kanagi. Hinoki watches excitedly as Ichika transforms inherited knowledge into something new. Kanagi avoids the attack and Ichika looks genuinely impressed. He escaped despite never encountering that strange technique before. She praises his one-handed swordsmanship for closely resembling the founder's techniques. Her observation shocks Kanagi and briefly steals his response. Ichika then suggests he fears never becoming as powerful as Makoto. Kanagi freezes because she has identified his exact hidden concern. Suo overhears the exchange and looks equally shaken by Ichika's insight. Kanagi tightens his sword grip while remembering Makoto's overwhelming strength firsthand. Makoto had been an exceptional squad captain, seemingly beyond anyone's reach. That memory constantly makes Kanagi question whether he can ever match him. Yet Ichika's words suggest that reaching such heights is entirely possible. More surprisingly, she insists Kanagi never needs to become another Makoto. She suddenly shouts for him to focus and gathers energy around herself. Ichika unleashes Tengu Dance, forming a violent tornado of swirling water. Past masters created this technique by expanding upon the founder's original methods. Their weaker power prevents those techniques from ever equaling the founder's might. Still, every master keeps improving them, inching closer across successive generations. Hearing that explanation, Kanagi finally grasps what she has been teaching him. Ichika admits she cannot measure exactly how remarkable Makoto was as captain. From everything she knows though, he must have been an extraordinary leader. Kanagi's beginning will naturally look different from Makoto's established achievements. If he sharpens his abilities, she believes he can eventually reach that level. Pointing her wooden stick forward, Ichika gives him one final piece of advice. He should stop imitating Makoto and follow the path entrusted specifically to him. Her counsel brings back the memory of Makoto, firmly shaking Kanagi's hand. Reflecting on that moment, he chooses the future over endless comparisons. A pleased smile crosses Ichika's face as his uncertainty finally disappears. For that future, she declares that she will personally oversee his training. They immediately begin a brutal regimen, driving each other toward their limits. 2 weeks later, two squad captains examine recommendations at Anti-Prophecy headquarters. Hinoki and Midori review the candidates submitted directly by the superintendent. Both Kanagi and Ichika appear among the superintendent's newly recommended choices. Several members quietly question why those two received such unusual consideration. Outside headquarters, a shadowed figure makes a secret call beside the building. The caller tells someone that a trip to the hospital is necessary. Reports confirm Kanagi and Ichika are already inside the facility. The new squad's captain examination will also begin in exactly 3 days. Holding a book of doom, the figure makes an audacious declaration. Soon, the caller vows to command Anti-Prophecy's newly created squad. The mysterious infiltrator is Eva, one of the 12 apostles of Apocalypse. Her heavenly demon ability lets her replace anyone whose life she takes. Eva intends to seize the captaincy and dismantle Anti-Prophecy from within. Midori's relentless campaign has already eliminated over half of the 12 apostles. Unable to defeat him directly, the survivors choose internal sabotage instead. They will commit any act necessary to ensure the prophecy becomes reality. 3 days pass, and the grand training field hosts the captain selection. Once every participant gathers, the instructor explains the examination's 4 separate tests. Only 4 competitors will survive long enough to enter the final stage. Each test awards points according to the participant's finishing position. First place receives 3 points, second gets 2, and third earns 1. Ultimately, the highest overall scorer becomes captain of the newly established squad. The superintendent observes silently while the instructor demands everyone's strongest effort. Every candidate answers with a unified and thunderous cry of agreements. Standing among them, Kanagi feels countless expectant eyes weighing upon him. 8 candidates have assembled to compete for the coveted leadership position. The roster names Hinoki, Akihina, Suo, Akane, Haitani, Shijima, and Ayo. They respectively represent squads led by Hanada, Ayo, Shijima, Akane, Haitani, Midori, and Hinoki. The 8th entrant is Kanagi, who received the superintendent's special recommendation. One regular candidate is secretly Eva, disguised and waiting in plain sight. Among all these competitors, that hidden apostle poses the greatest unseen danger. Kanagi stands alone because Ichika has not appeared anywhere near the field. True to form, his squad captain has carelessly overslept yet again. She still sends a threatening message demanding that he win the entire competition. Failure, she warns, will bring punishment delivered personally by her own hands. Kanagi steels himself, determined to survive until his absent captain finally arrives. Ichika races toward the training grounds while riding quickly on Suo's back. She repeatedly orders him to accelerate, fearing they will miss something crucial. Ichika has absolute faith in Kanagi and refuses to miss his victory. Back on the field, the first examination measures every participant's mana capacity. Kanagi releases such enormous energy that the measuring device instantly shatters. His destructive display secures first place and leaves the gathered candidates speechless. Akihina finishes 5th and stares in disbelief at Kanagi's monstrous output. Akane claims 3rd place, while Suo captures the 2nd place position. Both immediately recognize that Kanagi falls far outside ordinary expectations. Akane explains that examinations sometimes produce unusual physical or mana-based geniuses. She suspects Kanagi is a mana prodigy, unlike nearly everyone around him. Shijima, who places 7th, is also regarded as another abnormal contender. With 3 points secured, Kanagi takes the early lead on the scoreboard. The instructor announces hand-to-hand combat as the examination's 2nd challenge. Each candidate must now step forward and confront an assigned opponent. Victory in this challenge adds another 2 points to the winner's score. When the instructor calls for the first participant, Shijima volunteers immediately. He specifically requests Kanagi as his opponent. Shijima ranks strongest among regular members in unarmed combat. He is also classified as an irregular. At only 2 years old, he encounters monsters emerging from another dimension. Even seated in a baby cart, he kills every monster alone. His stunned mother watches as the infant protects her. That incredible childhood feat turns Shijima into a legend. Among the spectators, Hinoki accuses Midori of arranging an unfair matchup. Sending Shijima into an unarmed test clearly looks like cheating. Midori argues that selecting his strongest squad member violates nothing. Shijima possesses extraordinary magical talent alongside overwhelming physical power. Midori proudly says he has trained Shijima since his squad enlistment. Nobody has ever defeated him in hand-to-hand combat. Hinoki wonders whether the practically unbeatable fighter will end this instantly. As combat begins, Shijima approaches Kanagi with a question. He asks whether Kanagi truly has been teaching Hanada. Remembering the founders, Kanagi calls himself merely their messenger. Shijima cannot understand that answer, but continues pressing him. He claims someone unseen is guiding and educating the already brilliant Hanada. Even without Kanagi's help, Hanada will eventually surpass his current level. Kanagi simply agrees, irritating Shijima even more. Furious, Shijima activates Violent Bite and assumes a monstrous form. He instantly lunges forward with speed that nearly escapes sight. Kanagi ducks just in time, avoiding the initial rush. Shijima immediately follows with a devastating slash from his claws. Watching from the sidelines, Midori delights in his fighter's full aggression. Shijima swings with everything, but Kanagi smoothly steps aside. Exploiting the opening, Kanagi transitions into Suo's stance. He catches Shijima's wrist and violently hurls him downward. The impact unleashes a gigantic shockwave across the battlefield. Flying rocks scatter everywhere, startling every person watching. As debris settles, both fighters hang airborne over the ruined arena. The other participants stare at the destruction in awe. Kanagi merely redirected the attack, yet its force demolished the entire field. Even Kanagi admires Shijima's strength after witnessing that destructive power. Shijima mistakenly assumes the praise is sarcastic. Despite the crushing throw, he lands safely upon the devastated ground. Everyone is stunned that the destroyed terrain causes him no trouble. Akihina studies the result on his laptop and calls it inevitable. He explains Shijima has similar physical enhancement and extraordinary bodily durability. That reinforced body greatly surpasses an ordinary awakener's toughness. After regaining his composure, Shijima charges Kanagi once again. Kanagi understands that repeated counters alone cannot secure victory. He needs a completely different approach against this opponent. Activating his founder power, Kanagi lightly kicks the charging Shijima. He multiplies that strike through the penetration technique, Luminance Kick. Successive kicks hammer Shijima repeatedly while he remains airborne. Everyone watches in shock as he crashes down defeated. The instructor swiftly intervenes and prevents the fight from escalating. Kanagi receives the victory and another 2 points. The squad members marvel at Kanagi physically overpowering Shijima. Akihina had previously identified that formidable fighter as an irregular. Now Akihina furiously types across his laptop keyboard. He never expected Kannagi to possess such exceptional unarmed skill. Initially, he assumed Kannagi would eventually eliminate himself without interference. Kannagi's unexpected strength now makes him an obstacle to those plans. Shidama eventually regains consciousness and opens his eyes. He finds Kannagi casting some strange spell over his grounded body. Kannagi calmly explains that he is healing Shidama's injuries. That answer astonishes the recovering fighter even further. An irregular in mana and physical ability can somehow heal too. Such an absurd range of talents seems almost impossible. Still bewildered, Shijima asks whether Kannagi has any weaknesses. The question summons a painful memory within Kannagi. He remembers desperately trying to restore his fallen Makoto comrades. Despite every effort, he failed to return them to the world. After continuing treatment, Kannagi says Shijima should now stand safely. A thunderous bang suddenly erupts nearby during their conversation. Kannagi looks over and identifies the exam's final hand-to-hand match. Alarmed, Shijima wonders how long he remained unconscious. The ongoing matches make him suspect considerable time has passed. Kannagi calmly reveals that only 5 minutes have elapsed. Following their match, all remaining battles began simultaneously. Two competing pairs concluded their fights almost instantly. Akihina and Ichika remain locked in combat after all 5 minutes. Neither yields as they relentlessly exchange full-powered blows. Ichika charges Akihina and drives him backward with a powerful attack. She mocks him for possessing no exceptional ability. Without any unique skill or defining trait, he seems unfit for captaincy. Akihina steadies himself and calmly rejects her assessment. He says attracting attention has never interested him. Any ordinary person accepting a captain's position would only face death. A captain must adapt successfully to every possible situation. Only then can each squad member gain better chances of survival. His goal is raising each member's survival odds by merely 1%. Akihina refuses to let them share the Makoto squad's tragic fate. His cold reference to fallen comrades deeply stings Kannagi. Shijima takes equal offense and warns him to mind his language. Their battle resumes as she unleashes her disciplined chainsword technique. A spiraling storm of energy surrounds her charging body. Akihina blocks the blow, yet its force hurls him downward. Shijima immediately closes in and prepares another vicious strike. Just as her weapon descends, Akihina abruptly announces his surrender. The instructor halts everything and awards Shijima the victory. She freezes in disbelief, unable to accept the sudden conclusion. A teammate restrains her while furious anger consumes her. Shijima wanted a genuine fight, not such an effortless surrender. Akihina says he expected their duel to continue much longer. Instead, he conserved his strength for the remaining examinations. Walking away, he privately knows he could have defeated her. Revealing his true power now would only expose him unnecessarily. That risk feels especially dangerous while Kannagi watches so closely. The hand-to-hand combat stage ends with Kannagi leading at 5 points. Suo occupies second place with a total of 3 points. The instructor grants everyone 30 minutes before the third examination. He also announces that the 4 lowest scorers face elimination. During lunch, Shijima wonders why Ichika and Suo remain absent. Outside Anti-Prophecy headquarters, Suo finally arrives while carrying Ichika. The exhausting journey leaves him drained and visibly confused. Rather than approaching the training ground, she heads toward the courtyard. When questioned, Ichika says lingering traces of an aura attracted her. Its scent indicates that someone died in this area recently. She identifies the residue as belonging to a slain awakener. An overwhelmingly powerful monster apparently killed that individual. The discovery leaves Suo stunned and deeply alarmed. A murdered awakener means someone possibly breached Anti-Prophecy headquarters. Such an intrusion seems impossible because this location remains carefully hidden. Ishika argues that the 12 apostles could still locate it. Her confidence in their capabilities shocks Suo even further. He asks what motive could have drawn them here. She ignores that question and suggests visiting the training venue instead. Privately, Ichika judges the victim comparable to a squad captain. No official report mentions such a death anywhere within headquarters. That silence makes the entire situation increasingly grave. Kannagi and Ichika still share one overriding purpose. Both seek vengeance for Captain Makoto's death. Across the lunch area, injured participants bandage themselves and eat. Casual conversations fill the break as everyone recovers. Akihina remains isolated, concentrating entirely on his laptop. Seated beside Shijima, Kannagi brightens upon spotting his returning comrades. Other participants become nervous as they recognize Ichika. She belongs among Anti-Prophecy's 5 elite task force members. Midori also holds a place within that exceptional group. Surveying the assembled captains, Suo feels increasingly uncomfortable. Ichika claimed a captain had died within the courtyard. Yet all 7 captains currently stand around the training ground. She responds with a smirk and summons Kannagi closer. Ichika then shares every troubling detail she uncovered outside. Her conclusion shocks him. One captain may secretly be an apostle. The courtyard's aura residue makes that possibility disturbingly likely. Whoever died unquestionably possessed strength matching a captain. Still, every known captain appears present and accounted for. The contradiction seems impossible under ordinary circumstances. Someone could be wearing the victim's identity as a disguise. That would mean an imposter is currently standing among them. Kanagi tenses as the danger becomes horrifyingly immediate. Suo agrees that her reasoning cannot be dismissed. Someone who recently killed a captain-level fighter now surrounds them. He fears more victims will appear unless they act quickly. Ignoring this threat could trigger a prophecy guaranteeing humanity's extinction. Wearing a sinister grin, Ichika proposes a brutally simple solution. They could kill everyone present and erase the threat entirely. Suo and Kanagi reject her murderous plan without hesitation. Only the single apostle hiding among them needs elimination. Ichika grows excited by the possibility of confronting that enemy. Facing an apostle could finally provide their chance to avenge Makoto. After all, the apostles were responsible for his death. She asks whether Kanagi shares that same desire for revenge. Memories of Makoto and their ruined squad flood his mind. With those painful images resurfacing, Kanagi firmly confirms his resolve. He then asks Ayo, founder of the detectives, for guidance. Ayo recommends examining the courtyard where the death occurred. The ongoing examination makes an immediate investigation difficult. Kanagi considers rushing there while some lunchtime still remains. Ayo warns that such movement might alert the hidden culprit. The apostle could rival their terrifying enemy from the snowy mountain. That enemy could erase everyone present whenever he chooses. Everyone must prepare for the possibility of his sudden attack. Considering this, Kanagi plans to visit the training ground after today's test. He asks whether even the founders might overlook aura traces there. Hinoki reveals they have spent the past month beside a volcano. There, he masters his one-handed sword technique through relentless training. He says volcanic interference may disrupt the normal flow of chi. Such distortion could make lingering energy at the scene difficult to detect. The mage adds that close-range aura detection likely indicates an enemy. Ayo bristles as the others begin hijacking his investigation. Hinoki silences him, urging everyone to catch the culprit for his execution. Resuming the interrogation, Ayo tells Kanagi to question Ichika. Kanagi asks whether the apostle entered as a candidate instead of captain. The unexpected possibility catches Ichika off guard for a moment. She confirms such infiltration is possible among the candidates for captain. Still, Ichika insists they cannot eliminate the existing squad captains from suspicion. Kanagi accepts this and quickly devises an approach for the next test. His plan assumes the coming stage will evaluate their combat capabilities. Minutes later, the instructor announces that stage 3 is written. The revelation leaves Kanagi staring in stunned disbelief. Each candidate sits inside a private chamber without access to phones. That restriction prevents him from gathering information about the hidden infiltrator. Every question concerns anti-prophecy regulations, which Kanagi barely understands. Even so, he refuses surrender and struggles through every question. Once time expires, the instructor publicly reveals the latest results. Kanagi earns 0 points, while Akihina reaches second place with 3. The lowest 4 candidates are eliminated, with Shijima among them. Kanagi burns with embarrassment after scoring worst on the written examination. While he stands there frustrated, Shijima approaches and offers encouragement. He assures Kanagi that his overall performance remains impressive. Both men scored 0, yet Shijima especially resents Akihina's top result. Despite that irritation, he praises Kanagi for preserving first place overall. Shijima promises to support him throughout the examination's remaining half. He also wonders which candidate will ultimately become the new captain. Afterward, the superintendent must assess whether the newly assembled squad functions properly. Shijima explains that every squad requires a minimum of 7 members. Thus, its new captain must recruit at least 6 additional people. Resting a hand on Kanagi's shoulder, he offers some practical advice. Kanagi should begin deciding which candidates to recruit after becoming captain. Shijima then volunteers himself, emphasizing his impressive physical capabilities. Grinning, he departs while wishing Kanagi success through the remaining stages. As Shijima leaves, Ayo approaches and requests a visit to the courtyard. Something within his confident delivery tells Kanagi the culprit is already identified. Ayo confirms that conclusion, but still requires firm evidence for an official deduction. He declares their offensive against the 12 apostles begins now. The mage recaps events, explaining that Ayo supports Kanagi's reasoning and methods. Her needlessly winding narration steadily begins irritating Hinoki. She speaks that way intentionally, hoping some humor will ease the tension. At the courtyard crime scene, Ayo takes charge of the examination. Every detail he inspects matches the suspicions he already formed. Confirmation of the victim's identity also reveals the murderer's identity. Hinoki understands their opponent truly belongs among the 12 apostles. That means the enemy may possess the doom-bearing book held by the previous apostle. The mage asks what their next move should be. Kanagi prepares an answer, but a powerful energy surge suddenly engulfs him. His consciousness is pulled away into a strange realm filled with clouds. An elderly woman waits there, seemingly untouched by the surrounding haze. When questioned, the grandmother claims she is merely wandering past. She asks Kanagi how his investigation is progressing. He explains that someone has been murdered during the examination. The killer stole another person's appearance and displays considerable skill. Hearing this, the grandmother asks whether they should locate the culprit immediately. Kanagi answers that they have already determined the killer's identity. Their conclusion rests upon concrete evidence rather than a convenient guess. Despite possessing proof, he admits the truth cannot be exposed yet. The grandmother finds this confusing and questions the need for delay. In her view, immediate exposure and elimination offer the safest solution. Kanagi argues that the apparent simplicity conceals a greater problem. The murder involves two culprits rather than only one. He intends to strike when both targets gather in the same place. Kanagi asks the grandmother, secretly the superintendent, to avoid interfering. For now, he wants her to remain silent and simply observe. The grandmother smiles, wishes him luck, and promises not to interfere. She insists she is merely an old woman passing through. As she turns away, Kanagi finally tells her his name. His introduction draws another warm smile from the grandmother. A violent surge of energy suddenly courses through Kanagi's body. With that rush, he regains command over his movements. Inside a top-secret facility, the assistant questions the superintendent's decision. She wonders whether leaving the situation untouched was truly wise. The superintendent says Kanagi appears close to uncovering the truth. More importantly, his confidence suggests he already has a plan. She only wants to watch what Kanagi chooses to do next. Still, she orders the assistant to arrange backup if trouble erupts. The assistant accepts, though the remaining traces revealed nothing especially noteworthy. Even so, the superintendent chooses to trust Kanagi's claims. Her assistant cannot understand why she places such faith in him. The grandmother credits the fierce confidence and resolve within Kanagi's eyes. The next day, Kanagi walks through the woods with Shijima. Shijima explains that the next trial measures their abilities as squad captains. He expects Akihina to depend heavily upon his strategic talent. Despite that prediction, Shijima openly offers Kanagi his support. Kanagi thanks him, then abruptly asks why he intentionally failed. After a brief, ominous silence, Shijima turns toward him. He no longer wants to become a captain himself. Instead, he prefers serving freely beneath a captain possessing overwhelming strength. Kanagi watches suspiciously and challenges the motive behind that decision. He accuses Shijima of planning to eliminate every promising squad member. Hidden among the trees, Ichika waits nearby in case trouble begins. Shijima calmly admits he would kill someone whenever replacement becomes necessary. During the third trial, he could barely write anything down. His mind only processed and recovered information already stored inside it. Fear of that limitation ultimately left him with 0 points. Calling himself foolish, he chooses a simpler solution against Akihina. Rather than outthinking him, Shijima intends to destroy Akihina's body. They enter an open field surrounded by every captain and squad member. At the center, Midori remains chained firmly against the ground. Hinoki and a second captain stand watch beside the prisoner. With her usual cocky ease, Hinoki addresses Shijima as Mr. Apostle. She then invites their exposed enemy to provide a proper introduction. Knowing the disguise has failed, Shijima answers in a deeper voice. The intruder identifies herself as Eva, the ninth apostle. Eva explains her power can seize information directly from a host's brain. She selected and killed Shijima because his physique surpassed every contender. Smirking, Hinoki asks whether Eva planned to undermine the anti-prophecy unit internally. Eva confirms the scheme while acknowledging that her mission has failed. With no remaining alternative, she declares everyone present must now die. First, Eva demands the identity of whoever uncovered her disguise. Hinoki points directly toward Kanagi, who stands beside the apostle. Eva gives him a wicked grin and fixes him with a glare. She never expected him to possess the nerve to approach so closely. Turning fully toward Kanagi, Eva releases a crushing wave of energy. She demands to know who the hell Kanagi truly is. The explanation begins just before Eva hijacks Shijima's body. Midori tells Shijima he will recommend him as captaincy candidate. The unexpected news fills Shijima with immediate excitement. Midori warns that the decision remains confidential until tomorrow morning's announcement. Growing even happier, Shijima jokes that they are practically shouting the secret. At this volume, he argues everyone nearby will certainly hear them. Midori reassures him that his physical strength ranks among their finest. He confidently predicts Shijima would become an excellent squad captain. Encouraged by that faith, Shijima promises to give everything he has. As their fists meet, an unseen attack suddenly tears Shijima apart. He collapses into pieces directly before the horrified Midori. Shock leaves Midori unable to comprehend the brutal sight. A deep voice suddenly echoes nearby, ridiculing Shijima's pathetic weakness. It questions whether captain candidates within the anti-prophecy unit are truly this feeble. The speaker answers that artifacts alone made the squad powerful. That borrowed strength also came from whoever originally supplied those artifacts. Stepping into view, the attacker introduces herself as Eva. She identifies herself as one member of the 12 apostles. Eva declares that she eagerly anticipates everything awaiting them. She tells Shijima that nobody else can accomplish what must follow. Then Eva repeats the same chilling assurance word for word. Activating her heavenly demon technique, Eva seizes total control of Shijima's body. While she channels that power, Midori braces himself with overwhelming might. Midori unleashes Vajra Punch, pulverizing her entire body into bloody spray. Tears fill his furious eyes as he struggles for breath. To his disbelief, applause suddenly sounds from somewhere behind him. The Shijima he just watched die now stands there clapping. She praises him for destroying a 12 apostle with one strike. Such overwhelming power is exactly what she expected from her master. Stunned, Midori turns and sees Shijima apparently restored to life. He cannot respond before Eva instantly slices his body in half. She had merely disguised herself by assuming Shijima's appearance. Grinning viciously, Eva activates the Necromancer Dance artifact upon Midori. The artifact revives him as a corpse slave chained to her commands. Now obedient, he accepts serving her and addresses his mistress as Eva. She immediately slaps him hard enough to nearly topple him. Eva orders him to call her Shijima while she maintains this disguise. Using any other name could expose her and raise unwanted suspicion. Midori obediently nods and both share a sinister, twisted laugh. At the crime scene, Kanagi and Ayo examine the remaining evidence. Ayo activates his unique ability, Theatrical Detective, and rewinds time. It replays every past event that occurred around a crime scene. Through those visions, he personally witnesses the truth behind the crime. The power only works when Ayo possesses the necessary physical evidence. He must also deduce the culprit through his own reasoning. Simply observing scattered clues cannot satisfy the ability's strict condition. Ayo must independently reach the correct conclusion behind each case. Theatrical Detective can even predict crimes before they actually occur. Yet this extraordinary power carries one severe and permanent weakness. One incorrect deduction would erase the skill for the rest of his life. Ayo explains these conditions and Eva's actions to the gathered founders. They are revolted that Eva murders people and commandeers their bodies. The entire room abruptly falls silent as every gaze settles upon him. For another stunned moment, nobody moves while watching Ayo closely. Burning with determination, he swears never to forgive the apostle. The present battle resumes with Kanagi still consumed by blazing fury. He launches Flash Reflection Punch, strengthened by his penetration spell. The devastating attack races straight toward Eva without any hesitation. Kanagi adds Luminance Fist as his knuckles smash into her face. A colossal energy eruption blasts Eva violently through the surrounding air. She attempts to land, but the impact sends her skidding backward. Eva struggles to recover her footing while the dust gradually settles. Kanagi then hears her laughing loudly and accusing him of cruelty. Despite enduring several techniques, she continues speaking and taunting him. Eva mentions his friendship with Shijima and questions his merciless attack. Kanagi anticipated this outcome and knows his current power cannot win. Still recoiling, Eva dismisses the damage as absolutely nothing. She mocks his blows, claiming they feel like meaningless playing around. As the recoil weakens, she shouts that such attacks accomplish nothing. Once it fades, Eva again declares his techniques cannot possibly harm her. Kanagi agrees, yet says defeating her was never his assigned role. His entire assault merely bought time for the Mage Founder's possession. Upon taking control, the Mage Founder claims everything within Kanagi's body. Immense energy immediately engulfs his transformed physical form. Eva suspects Kanagi is the changed individual mentioned by the satellites. Rather than feeling afraid, she grows even more thrilled by him. Wearing a wicked grin, Eva summons hundreds of mummies overhead. Their horrifying screams echo as they pour downward from the sky. She declares life remains boring until someone finally confronts death. Eva invites everyone to fight her with everything their hearts desire. Watching them descend, Ayo identifies the mummies as hollow bodily shells. Eva controls them through corpses she previously stole from her victims. Laughing wildly, she boasts each mummy matches Shijima's physical strength. Confident in her army, Eva challenges her enemies to attack. Hinoki estimates nearly 100 Shijima-level bodies surrounding them. That terrifying number leaves a nearby candidate visibly shocked. Watching from his consciousness, Kanagi finds Eva's corpse army repulsive. She exploits the remains of everyone she has mercilessly trampled. Standing beside him, the Mage Founder observes that Kanagi has changed. She adds that the other founders have undergone changes as well. The mummies plunge toward the ground in one overwhelming wave. Controlling Kanagi's body, she declares Eva has badly underestimated him. Countless electrical arcs erupt and strike every mummy while airborne. The entire formation is electrocuted at once, leaving Eva visibly startled. Their reckless freefall feels personal, prompting the Mage Founder to rise. From beside Kanagi's consciousness, she also forces him onto his feet. Using his body, she strikes every descending minion before any can land. Burning mummies begin raining helplessly from the darkened sky. Confused, Eva wonders what technique Kanagi has just performed. Some people attain unmatched accuracy only through brutal, endless training. Kanagi's skill instead targets everything flawlessly, without the slightest hesitation. Not one of the nearly 100 airborne targets escapes his attack. The Mage Founder tells Kanagi to stand beside her and study. She commands him to carefully observe every action she performs. Kanagi marvels that her weak body still channels every spell efficiently. Calling him nearer, the mage founder begins explaining their fundamental difference. She says Kanagi has always pursued greater power solely for himself. The founders instead yearn to channel their abilities through his body. Confusion clouds Kanagi because her explanation still makes little sense. Immense power intoxicates him, yet it only brings his goal closer. That goal remains unchanged. Kanagi simply wants to become even stronger. In turn, every founder is captivated by his unparalleled natural talent. She recalls his tragedy of losing a deeply trusted friend. That fallen friend had entrusted the coming future directly to Kanagi. His heart now burns with fury, and she alone can save him. Pointing toward the excited founders, she says they prefer Kanagi this way. Eva hears this declaration but cannot understand what she means. She lunges at Kanagi, shouting that the world's law is simple. The strong crush the weak beneath them without mercy. An electric burst suddenly flashes ahead, halting Eva during her charge. Bewildered, she scans the surroundings and sees lightning raining from above. The mage founder admits that countless people share Eva's cruel belief. Yet she once witnessed a being powerful enough to destroy the tower. Beasts from another dimension merely toyed with that being before devouring it. After watching her comrades fall, she now fights for the powerless. Their deaths demand vengeance, and she intends to deliver it. Still controlling Kanagi's body, the mage founder approaches the trapped Eva. She calls Eva frustrated and mocks her inability to fight back. Relentless thunderstrikes keep Eva from returning to her feet. Kanagi trained in the mountains while wearing laughter like a mask. Beneath that cheerful exterior, his desire for revenge never disappeared. Every founder believes Kanagi will eventually stand upon their lofty peak. Extending his hand, the mage founder promises their support whenever needed. If sorrow strikes, Kanagi only needs to identify its cause. Together, they will destroy whatever stands behind the prophecy. Without hesitation, Kanagi points directly toward Eva hanging in the air. Lightning bolts instantly rip through her, tearing her body into pieces. Everyone stares in horror at the devastating result. The instructor sees Midori's childhood image within Kanagi's terrifying potential. Another monstrous existence is clearly beginning to take shape. Scattered across the ground, Eva struggles to comprehend her defeat. This young boy has destroyed every minion and obliterated her body. Kanagi approaches and asks whether she finally understands their strength. He warns that numerous questions still require honest answers. Several people he knows possess exceptional skill at extracting information. Kanagi intends to discuss everything that has happened with Eva. Speaking deeply, Eva admits her current form cannot defeat him. She grudgingly concedes that her boss's warning was correct. A coffin suddenly pushes upward from beneath the ground. Eva calls the ominous coffin her hidden trump card. Kanagi recoils in shock as she explains its ancient history. Hundreds of years earlier, one founder single-handedly slaughtered 10,000 soldiers. That terrifying founder was also responsible for destroying the tower. Eva opens the coffin, revealing Hinoki's preserved body inside. The founders stare in disbelief at her possession of his corpse. Hinoki's own spirit appears especially horrified by the desecration. Without speaking, the mage founder blasts the coffin with a thunderbolt. Her sudden attack shocks Hinoki's watching spirit. She declares that the genuine confrontation is only beginning now. Eva has already seized control of Hinoki's dead body. The reanimated corpse rises before them with his blade firmly gripped. Thrilled by this stolen power, Eva declares their strength finally equal. Crushing pressure floods the area and leaves Kanagi visibly shaken. Its aura surpasses everything he experienced while training with Ichika. Eva reveals another surprise with a casual snap of her fingers. Hundreds of fresh minions immediately claw upward from the ground. She proudly announces that her second wave has arrived. Kanagi thinks this must be the ending of the world. He cannot escape the certainty that everything will end soon. Again, his mind insists the world's final hour is approaching. Once more, he fears the world has nearly reached its end. Panic starts creeping in, but the mage founder dismisses everything as trivial. While Eva summons more minions, an explosion erupts behind her. She turns and discovers Kanagi's friends charging onto the battlefield. Ichika, Suo, and the others stand prepared for combat. Their arrival proves that Kanagi is not fighting this ordeal alone. Eva grows irritated because she believed he had come without support. Listening to the corpse speak, Kanagi notices another disturbing detail. Its voice and manner of speaking perfectly match Hinoki's own. Despite receiving reinforcements, his friends struggle against the new minions. Eva remarks that this newly summoned group is far stronger. Each creature now possesses a physical hardening ability. One member even unleashes everything in a full-powered attack, yet the target walks away from that full-powered strike without a scratch. Horror spreads when every minion reveals a different specialized skill. Their vast numbers make direct combat increasingly impossible for anti-prophecy fighters. Watching closely, Akihina releases sound visualization and conjures a phoenix of sound. The blazing bird erases an entire cluster of minions instantly. Even after that display, she refuses to lower her guard. Individual abilities are boosting every minion far beyond normal strength. Haitani suddenly tears free from his restraints amid the confusion. He drives a younger fighter downward with a vicious, crushing slam. Akina reacts instantly and snatches the rookie away from certain death. Eva savors the spreading mayhem as though attending her favorite show. She smugly claims only squad captains can survive a battle like this. Kanagi looks toward the remaining founders, seeking their thoughts. Not one of them offers him an answer. He asks Midori to surrender control of their body briefly. Though startled by this request, she eventually grants it. Taking over, Kanagi confidently ridicules Eva for misjudging his friends. Underestimating them, he tells her, was an unforgivable mistake. Elsewhere, Hinata finds a tightening ring of minions surrounding him. Kanagi's 7th lesson suddenly returns to his mind. He channels his fist technique, manifesting a dragon around himself. The dragon fuels his power while forming the base of every attack. Explosive kicks batter every charging minion into helpless wreckage. Earlier, founder Makoto had carefully studied Hinata's unusual physique. His muscular frame remains remarkably flexible, despite its imposing bulk. Makoto noted his preference for agile, single-point concentrated blows. Another founder, Ayo, considered the method decent but still underdeveloped. With their instruction, Ayo believed its effectiveness could soar much higher. Back in battle, Hinata combines every technique the founders taught him. He twists like a living coil, attacking fluidly from every direction. Precise strikes erase the surrounding minions one after another. Akane braces herself as another horde comes rushing straight toward her. She recalls Kanagi's guidance concerning the transmutation technique. That art refines flawed substances until they reach perfection. Previously, her creations were limited to flimsy bargain-grade weapons. Her alchemy now surpasses those limits by shaping the earth itself. Massive stone golems rise at her command to meet the horde. She mastered this ability during Kanagi's 8th lesson. Their blows easily shatter even the minions' hardened bodies. Kanagi asks Hinoki how Suo is handling his battlefield. Hinoki assures him that Suo remains firmly in control. He admits Suo lacks his brother's brilliance, but possesses distinct gifts. Suo wields Hinoki's one-handed sword style with practiced precision. Adding the Skyfall skill, he unleashes one overwhelming swing. A whole swarm of minions falls beneath that single strike. He strengthens it further by blending in a calendula bloom. The resulting flower-shaped slash tears through enemies across a broad area. Ichika watches proudly as her student fuses skills and techniques seamlessly. Even so, she considers Kanagi's combinations unrivaled in complexity. While cutting through minions, her attention wanders toward those thoughts. A gigantic tornado of flame abruptly forms directly ahead. Kanagi's battle against the 12 apostles has already started. Studying the fiery vortex more closely only deepens her shock. Kanagi is already fighting the legendary founder Hinoki. Eva rushes Kanagi using Hinoki's one-handed blade style. She combines it with a powerful wave-cutting blade technique. He slips aside effortlessly, moving as though instinct controls him. Although her attack misses, it annihilates the ground beneath them. Kanagi answers immediately with Midori's thunderbolt attack. Against someone as powerful as Eva, the lightning achieves almost nothing. She retaliates by activating her catastrophic dice slash technique. Countless cubic sections replace the battlefield under its slicing force. Her own minions are carved apart along with everything else. Kanagi survives by springing onto one of the floating cubes. He remembers surviving this exact technique with his own body before. Across the dice terrain, other fighters struggle merely to remain standing. One fighter desperately grips a comrade dangling above the abyss. The dice slash suddenly severs his arm during the rescue. Still clutching the severed limb, the falling woman plunges helplessly downward. Kanagi spots both endangered fighters just as disaster closes in. Without pausing, he casts a bubble spell beneath them. Buoyant spheres carry the entire group safely away from danger. Growing increasingly exhausted, Midori asks Hinoki what they should do next. Hinoki refuses to choose and tells her to follow her wishes. She agrees, while Eva unleashes a cloud-splitting beam across the battlefield. The blast swallows the entire combat zone in overwhelming energy. Even Akihina, a squad captain, freezes at such outrageous destruction. Eva delights in the astonishing power available through a founder's body. She marvels that Hinoki's physique seems purpose-built for battle. Despite that perfection, she decides an even stronger technique is necessary. Eva activates Hinoki's secret indomitable technique and prepares her strike. To her disbelief, Kanagi catches the descending sword bare-handed. Hinoki's spirit observes this feat without showing any surprise. The mage scoffs that Eva remains weak, even inside Hinoki's body. Enraged, Eva demands how a founder's legendary body could seem weak. Desperate for greater power, she tears frantically through Hinoki's memories. She digs deeper, hunting for any technique stronger than her current one. Terror floods her eyes, and sudden tears begin spilling down her face. Hinoki's past overwhelms Eva, revealing his life during the Tower era. Merely witnessing that history drives her dangerously close to madness. Within the vision, Hinoki bisects an entire tower with one slash. Yet every battle leaves him colder, emptier, and increasingly detached. Eva cannot fathom how human wisdom and skill reach such heights. Endless devastation fills his memories, each scene worse than the last. He severs people, fells monsters, and even cleaves through the sea. His blade goes further still, carving a wound into the planet. That crushing legacy buckles Eva's spirit beneath impossible pressure. She desperately questions where to go and how to become stronger. No answer comes, while the unbearable burden keeps grinding her down. Cracks spread across her soul, threatening to erase it entirely. Hinoki's relaxed spirit remarks that Eva should simply break apart. Another founder warns her shattered spirit would slaughter everything nearby. Their worst fear immediately becomes reality when Eva's spirit finally ruptures. A piercing shriek erupts, carrying its force all the way